Good evening. My name is Susan Stevenson. I'm the chair of the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation of Southampton Village. I'm calling this meeting on October 28th, 2019 to order. Do I have a motion to open?
I move that we open the meeting for the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation for October 28th.
Second?
I second that.
Aye.
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 Before we begin, I want to make it clear that I expect everyone, the board and the public, to act and to speak with civility in this room. Anyone who wants to speak should sign in at the front table on this list, so we have the correct spelling of your name for the minutes. No one may speak until they are recognized by the chair. If you are presenting materials, please put them on this front table facing the board so our videographer can get a shot of them. Now I'd like to introduce our board for tonight. Robert Coburn, Sarah Latham, Curtis Highsmith, and Jeff Broadleaf. Our counsel is Bo Robinson. After tonight, our counsel will be Alice Cooley, who is also here. I'd like to thank Bo for all of his hard work over the years. Thank you very much. And I also want to recognize Christina Redding, who retired from the board, and Sarah Latham is taking her place. She worked endlessly for years and years, and she was a very bright spot on our board and extremely nice to everyone. I also want to introduce our recording secretary, Antoinette Edwards, Zachary Studenroth, our historic consultant, and Charles Styler, our videographer. Let's begin. First, signs.
Minutes?
Oh, minutes. You've got a point. Did everyone read the minutes for September 23rd?
And you had a note, I believe, back to Antoinette.
I can't
A
remember.
slight amendment.
Okay.
I agreed with it. So I'll make
Okay.
a motion that we accept the minutes from September 23rd, 2019.
Second that.
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, she's an
Oh,
abstainer.
she's abstaining.
Aye.
Aye.
Next, written decisions. We have one written decision.
Do we have signs?
Yep. You have signs?
Oh, signs,
yeah.
sorry. Southold Properties. We have two signs, actually.
there's
Three
There
now.
are three, they're just not on the agenda, so.
Yep.
They're on tonight's agenda.
The first, Charlie, can you pick this up?
You might want to take the Post-it off.
Yeah. This is about the movie theater parking lot that was once, I believe, leased by the village, so there seemed to be some confusion that people are parking during movie times, and the owner has now taken back, I believe, the use of that entire parking lot for the movie theater. He came in the previous meeting with a big sign that he wanted to put on the side wall. We asked him to speak to the building inspector and to come up with a better idea, which was regular like signs, you know. And this is the sign that he came up with. And the building inspector asked me to represent him since this had been
Right, but
done.
an important component, maybe this is what you're going to say, Rob, is that it won't be on the building.
No, I'll show where it is.
He proposes installing, I believe, 6 or 8 of
Right.
them, one at each entrance, one at the entrance to the east, between that and the parking lot that's just east of the movie theater along the driveway, one at the up ramp at the top of the driveway from Windmill Lane, and then others at the islands throughout the parking lot in the back.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly reasonable idea. Anyone, any objections over here on the board? Anyone from the public?
I'll make a motion that we approve the application for the signs, the multiple locations of that sign at the movie theater.
Second that.
Aye.
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 Sorry. Next.
This is an application for Build Theory. It's a contractor's sign.
Is there anyone here to represent Build Theory? Please step forward and state your name.
Will McClear, Motion Graphics.
Do you have a copy of this?
I do not.
Could we ask you to place it down facing us so that the videographer can...
You got it.
Could you just,
There we go.
This is for project on Murray Lane, I think.
Yes, correct.
board members?
No objections on my
I think
part.
it's handsome. I would just, there are 2 telephone numbers and 2 websites on there. I'm just sort of wondering.
I think Murray Lane is a private road.
So we have no jurisdiction?
It's not that you don't have any jurisdiction, it's a private road.
And it's small print. so
All right.
Thank you, Bo. Okay.
That being said, is there anyone from Murray Lane who would like to step up and speak on behalf of the people who live there? All right,
Hearing no comments, I'll make a motion that we approve the sign for Build Theory.
Second.
Aye.
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 And finally, Southold Properties, 43 Hill Street, a wall sign?
No,
This is-
no, this
no.
is
This is
Capital One.
Capital One.
Capital One.
Yeah,
Which one is Southold Properties?
That's the
that's the
first one.
first one we did, the Hill
Oh, sorry.
Movie Theater.
Do you have a different, is that on your agenda?
Yes.
It wasn't on this afternoon to the building department, it came on,
Of course it wasn't, that's right. What's the next one?
Capital One Bank.
Sorry, because I write on these things when I look at this stuff.
Our agenda, in defense of Susan, not that she needs it, but our agenda changed a couple times with respect to signage.
But that's all right, because we like to allow for
Yes, to be
the
flexible.
the village to thrive, so any signs are a good idea. Capital One Bank.
It's for the awning over the door there.
Is there anyone here from Capital One Bank to represent this application? Oh,
Okay.
the little blue, Charlie. I'll
Zoom
point
in.
with my pen.
is it just that, or is it the one that says the We Make Home Loans?
Just the awning.
Just that.
It's just the awning?
I
Okay.
don't think, I would
Susan, can you aim that over there, maybe? a little bit?
ask the building department, what is We Make Home Loans doing up there?
It's about I don't have the dimensions, it's on there, but it's about a 3-foot by 6-foot extendable awning to shade light coming
Right,
into a door.
I'm concerned about
Yeah.
We Make Home Loans, that may or may not be a legal sign.
Well, it's not part of the application.
Seems to be out of order. So is there a way, I'll talk to them.
Okay.
Okay,
Just
so,
to adjourn the matter and delegate one among you to speak to the building inspector about it.
adjourn, no, they're not asking for that. They're only asking for
The awning.
for the
The awning.
awning. That's just an illegal sign they obviously put up on their own.
Well, you've had a history of where you find something that's inappropriate with the property
You
to
hold
not
off on the
process the
Okay,
application
adjourned.
until you.
Motion to adjourn application of Capital One Bank.
And authorize the chair to speak to the building inspector about the status of the property.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
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 Aye, but I don't know if I need to vote. All right, take this all back. I don't sign any of these until the next day. It holds up the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. So that's the extent of the signs, Rob?
It is.
Next, written decisions. We have one written decision, is that right?
Well, you've got 4 written decisions this evening.
Oh,
Do you want another agenda?
no, I just don't,
We had the
we
same.
haven't had time to read them all.
I saw
They're quite simple.
Hill Street.
So they're either approve the application as submitted or amended, depending upon the circumstances.
Or, do we have, I have Christopher Moore.
You got a package with all the decisions.
I see. Okay, well, I hate to
Do
take
you
a,
want to distribute them so we could?
No, everybody got a package, did you not?
yeah, we just,
I don't have them. Haven't received anything. Sorry.
It's all right.
Where, should it come from the building department?
Yeah.
Did anyone else receive something from?
No,
Spare
I think I was
package?
there contemporaneously with Bo and
does this work? Here's one. Here's a copy. That's different, I think.
Scott.
These are the ones. But do we want to hold up the meeting by reading these things? I haven't, I've read Christopher Moore.
I think they're all, no, I think that.
No, they're all different.
They're all
Right.
different.
So each pack is a different,
You want to take a 5-minute
copy.
recess
Okay.
to read them?
I believe that each one of the written decisions is just a
Your base-
extension of commentary that we had during the course of the meeting, and the material items in there is just to support the approval of the application as submitted. With the-
We have had an incident in the recent past where we got caught on this.
Okay.
And so I'm not comfortable signing them without looking at if there were amendments to plans or new additions, without taking them.
Rob, would a 5-minute recess help you enough to move it along or not?
Are other people ready to move forward? Because if the answer is yes, then I'll read them.
Jeff? I think it's,
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to at least have a few minutes
Yeah.
to read them.
Take a 5-minute recess.
Okay.
motion to adjourn for 5 minutes.
So moved.
Okay, we'll read fast. Do I hear a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Aye.
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 Okay. So let's start with Christopher Moore. If I could find the original instrument, that,
I only ever got copies of second, so I don't.
I've got it.
So, Susan, what do you have? Do you have four original instruments in front of you?
I don't know, I have a lot of copies
Well,
of
there no,
things.
the original instrument should be with the file.
They're not with. I
No,
don't see them
it's
in the
not.
files, Bill.
This is just, we're going to deal with it, but no, it isn't.
Right.
Yeah.
This is put on the desks when we came in. We saw them the minute we arrived here today. Okay, Christopher Moore. The pool house, correct?
Pool house and amendment, an alteration to the main house.
Extension of a.
Right,
Yeah.
of the steps. Anyone have any, we've all read it, right?
Motion to approve written decision by council for the application for 509 First Nick Lane.
Second.
No, we have to do a voice vote.
Oh.
Rob?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Curtis?
Aye.
Susan? Aye. Ms. Latham is abstaining. She wasn't here.
Just cross her name off then.
Okay. Next, Scott Tagatoff. This was the small house on North Main Street. Do I have a-
For the record, I think that name is spelled incorrectly on the written decision. It's different to the file anyway.
The file is incorrect, I believe.
Is it? Okay.
Right, and has anybody confirmed that the plan?
Tagatoff.
That the September 30th plans are in fact the ones without changes to the...
Front?
The front?
Well, this says specifically no changes to the front on the resolution.
Yeah.
Right, it
Have
does,
that, yeah.
but then
What's the date of the plans?
September
That was
30th.
after the meeting.
Oh,
Here's some plans October 1st. You wrote your decision on the plans from the 30th?
The date of the 30th.
Oh, okay. The plans themselves may be dated the 30th. They are received on the 1st of October. Apologize. Is there a date on these plans other than the receipt date? 30th
30.
of September, okay. So Jeff, I'm just checking, the question is whether it shows,
That indeed, there will be no alterations to the front porch.
Scott had a cover letter.
there appear to be no changes.
Okay, good, okay.
Okay. Let's motion to vote to approve the, so let's vote.
Motion to approve the written decision by council.
Scott
the approval.
Tagatoff.
Correct.
Tagatoff.
261 North Main Street.
I'm voting aye.
Aye.
Susan,
Wasn't seconded.
what? Oh, second?
No.
I'll second.
Okay,
Aye.
Aye.
great. I don't see the original of oh, here it is. Passfield Hall, 139 Main Street. This was an entire house. It cannot be seen from any public venue, as I remember.
Okay, yeah, that was good.
Motion to approve the written decision for Passfield Hall.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
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 Next, and finally, Carol Welsh, 340 Hill Street. I believe there's some discussion. Rob?
Yeah, sorry, just getting. the
Okay,
order.
take your time.
The plans that I saw submitted seemed to incorrectly capture the comment about the decorative shingles and inserted a molding in addition to some decorative shingles, which I don't think was part of the original plan. And I didn't see a color specified for the shutters, which I think was one of our requests. So, I don't know, I see the applicant here, is she allowed to speak?
Sure. Reopen the hearing.
Motion to reopen the matter of Carol Welsh, 340 Hill Street.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
The architect, when I submitted the architect did what I asked her to do. She did 3 rows of the dental shingles
Right.
on the front, and it shows that there's shingles. There wasn't a color, but they're going to be white. I wasn't sure what color I was going to make them.
The shutters?
Yeah.
So I thought you were going to maybe choose a dark color
Well,
that you felt was appropriate.
looking around, there's not a lot of houses that are natural colored with shingles. So it's hard to, I mean, I've seen kind of mostly light-colored shingles. Light-colored shutters. I could care, at this stage of the game, I could care less what color they are. Could make them black.
From
or
we
white.
have
have
to,
to have a
unfortunately, I'm
specific-
sure you do, Kara. Let's start, though, with the shingles, because what the plans show here, and Charlie, I don't know if you can pick it up, but if you could take that down and have it face us, and I'm sorry, you're going to have to look upside. I have a copy here just for us. Oh, yeah. There's a note here about remove 3 rows of shingles above roof of front porch and provide AZEC dental trim. That's what the architect has put in here.
We don't want AZEC.
So I think there's a
That's what, it's supposed to be the
the
shingles.
simple shingles. So
Yes.
your architect has sort of over-designed this, but those are the plans,
Okay.
that's the plans that are referenced here. So I think we were, you were clear too.
Yes.
And I understand you spoke with Chris Talbot, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really just reestablishing that shingle pattern that was there. That's really what we need to see in the
3
drawing.
rows of shingles, and that's what I had told,
Yeah, I know.
So,
And say, I think the confusion here is the use of the word dental.
Dental.
Which this isn't. This is n-
well,
a
that's
different-
kind of that,
Well, I'm just saying, that's not what this is, and if the architect uses that word, it suggests that some sort of a molding is being inserted, because dentals are little raised this way, not the patterning of the shingle. which
Staggered
is
would
what
be a
you're
better
looking
word.
to.
Staggered.
So
But
it's-
actually-
it's the wrong
okay, then
word.
she didn't understand.
Spelled-
Right, and so that creates a confusion
Yeah,
in the
I know.
annotation because it suggests that something else is going to be built.
Right.
Because that is another thing.
And it does say AZEC molding. So
It says
she just
Okay.
your architect just
I can
misunderstood.
She
I
didn't
can just,
understand.
okay, but actually, DENTIL is attributed to shingles, not DENTELLE.
Well, it's not what was prescribed.
Right.
Oh, so this says
Reproduce what
dental
was there.
fenestrations, it should be shingles. I believe, okay. So how are we going to resolve this?
The answer is we're ready to go, but in order to vote out, we need plans from an architect that show what's going to be built. If your architect were here tonight, we could have the architect sign an amendment to these.
Since
But
there is a
without,
photograph of the front of the house.
Could just
to preserve
reference.
that detail, an image, a little detail of that could be inserted, and this is what's going to be built. It can be referenced.
yeah,
with an image.
unfortunately, I couldn't send her that picture because it wasn't clear.
Yeah.
Well, when I did,
Sure.
she couldn't see it.
Yep.
And that was the problem, because I was trying to explain to her that we need 3 rows of shingles above the,
She
We
didn't
want to get you there on
What is
this,
this?
and you've done all the work.
Say.
So could you
Make it,
ask her just to redraw
Subject to the
this?
submission
And
change
if you
and
could
have,
choose a color.
okay, I'll pick white.
Okay.
I mean, my trim is white.
If
Still
you-
technically closed for written decision, so it's not.
well, you've just reopened it.
Oh, we'll,
So what color is what going to be?
You want the shingles to be,
No, the shutters.
no, the
No.
shutters to be white?
Yeah,
So now what do? We
Okay,
write it
so,
in?
Is there language in the decision that you don't wish to have there, you want
Yes.
changed?
We
You
want
said
it somehow-
I put dental fenestrations.
We want to put decorative shingle to match the photograph in the file of
From approximately
19...
2006, I think, or so. It's
So
the
I
I
have-
just don't have a good photograph.
Well, that should be the
to send her.
plans. The plan should show that, so that the decision can reference the plans. I'm trying to figure out, you can grant the decision to approve, subject to
receipt of plans.
receipt of the plans that show this language, and the plans can refer to the photograph or attach a copy of the
Exactly.
photograph.
Yeah.
So what language, so I need to rewrite the original instrument? Or you do? Who wants to do it?
Yeah, I'll rewrite it, but,
I mean, so we would say
you know,
3
subject-
rows of decorative shingles as,
As per the attached photograph, and that would be the historical reference, and then
put
you
in,
could then design something
white.
based upon a fuzzy photograph.
and white
See it enough.
shutters. Okay?
Yeah, I
Where's
mean,
a
she's not
copy?
designing anything, we have to get the shingles like that, they'll have to
And they need one copy
It
that
just
says
needs-
this?
cut them.
Reference.
So what was the year of the photo, 2006?
Roughly 2006. It was a photograph I think you submitted in the application back in 2006, 2007.
I think that was the, yes, because it's when we
It
bought
shows
the
the photograph, it
house.
shows the house as white,
Yes.
and there's a clear shot from the front. The reproductions don't look good, but the original photograph will show that molding. And I think they have maybe 2 copies of it in the file from 2006.
Okay, because I don't.
Okay.
No, they have it in the building form.
Okay, I'm
are you going to
put
have the
this-
plans modified to show and also illustrate as well as document both the color of the shutters as well as a removing of the dental detail? Just going to reference it somewhere in the plans that you're going to be resubmitting?
She's just going to, she's going to submit another page like this.
Yes.
Okay, so if you submit
That'd be
another
great.
page like that in your written decision, you can reference such rendering rather than trying to figure out what photo is what.
I've written a photo in, so the mystery photograph.
Okay.
and-
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the written decision of council as modified by council, and subject to receipt of an amended, 2 copies of an amended elevation showing the correct shingle pattern and designating the color of the shutters.
I'll send it to Chris before the end of the week.
Okay,
That's the motion.
We're going to
okay.
miss seeing you.
No, I'm not going to miss being.
Is there a second?
I second
Okay. Aye.
Aye.
that. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll have her redo this.
Okay, Rob,
That's it?
That's it.
here, you better take, do you have a copy too of that?
I have 4 original instruments. I only have 2
Oh,
original
okay,
instruments.
whatever. Next, fortunately, there are no driveway gates, and we're moving ahead to public hearings.
I'm sorry, where are the other original instruments? Do you have the
I
other?
handed them to her that she gave them to
Okay,
you.
I will
She-
find it.
Okay, do you need time?
Go ahead. We'll-
Moving on to public hearings, non-historic. Number 1, McDonald's USA LLC. Please step forward and state your names.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. Keith Brown, Brown and Ullman LLP.
Want this?
Sure. 538 North Holland Road, Suite 301 West, 11747. With me this evening, I have McDonald's area manager, Mr. Ryan Vargas, as well as Mr. Ken McKenzie. Ken is the director of architecture from Core States Group, who helped with the redesign. Just by way of background, you may recall we were here back on August 12th. At that time, we presented this yellow rendering of the proposed renovations to the existing restaurant located on North Sea Road. At that time, just my notes indicate that you did not like the mansard roof, that you did not like the yellow color palette, that you did not like the yellow siding and preferred a color palette that was gray,
Sir?
and that
Sir?
you did not...
Sir?
Yeah.
Can we not use the word like? It was inappropriate. We felt that it was not appropriate.
Okay, sure.
Sam, I am.
And that you wanted to see something more residential looking rather than commercial looking. So, we went kind of back to the drawing board to take another look at the proposed design for the restaurant. And on October 8th of a couple weeks ago, we submitted the new renderings that were prepared by Mr. McKenzie and his team, and we're presenting them for approval tonight. So with that, Mr. McKenzie is going to go through it with you. So, thank you.
Evening.
Good evening.
So the existing building has a two-slope mansard. The design solution that you're seeing here connects the existing eave to the existing parapet to maintain the visual, to hide the rooftop units, to provide a simpler form with, as opposed to the iconic McDonald's. Remove the light beams, go to a darker palette in terms of a gray hardy plank siding. This is the actual shingle siding you see here. We've added 3 dormers across the front elevation, with the center having the golden arches with a gooseneck light fixture. And then on the side elevation, what we call the non-drive-through side, a non-illuminated word mark.
Facing the highway north, I believe. Is that right?
This
The non-drive-through
Yes,
side, the McDonald's
that's correct.
side.
North side.
this is the drive-through side with the 2 windows.
Right, that would be the south.
And this is the rear where we're continue the screening around the rear of the property.
So it's, the middle drawing is where?
That faces toward the highway.
Yes, this would be the north
The gas
side, this would be the
station.
south side.
Oh, okay,
Right, and that would be west, and this
okay,
is
so
east,
that's the front of
facing
it,
North Sea Road.
of the street
Right.
side. Okay, thank you.
So, may I comment?
Sure,
I think
sure.
you've been very responsive. I think the simplification of the roof line is, to me, very pleasing, actually. I think it's a nice, simple form. I like the simplified palette, and I especially appreciate the removal of the tiled towers, plinths, or whatever you called them, which
the
looks
arcades.
a little urban. I know it's part of your branding for other stores, but I thought it fought the look and feel of this neighborhood. So
One thing we all agreed was that we wanted to see the removal of the acrylic lights on the roof,
The
correct?
ground lights, ooh.
So, from my standpoint, and I'd love to hear comments, obviously, from my fellow
I
members,
thought-
but I
I-
think it's been very responsive.
I think you
Thank
did
you.
a really good job. I'm very pleased with what you did.
It's a drive-through restaurant. We're not going to get,
It's,
but with that design, at least the building, I think it's more in keeping, both in style, material that's being used, even the softening a little bit with the dormers. Again, it's not a house, it's a drive-through restaurant. I'm happy that you're only using one goose down and you're just showing a small rendering or of the McDonald's symbol. The sign on the roof,
pretty big.
it's a little big, a little much. It's all white. It's not illuminated. It's not. You don't have any type of projectile lighting going to it or anything going to the
Correct.
letters. It's
Just to clarify, per the zoning and the process they went through for the zoning approval, the signage is all compliant with all the local
Right.
ordinances.
And I would point out,
It's-
they call
We
this
it's
assume
they
that
call
compliant.
this
when
the
it
word
comes
mark.
here.
and then appropriateness.
Sure. Right.
They
Yep.
deal with the applying
What?
for the. Sorry.
Just in terms of, we call this the word mark.
That's the
So
word
the
mark,
word
correct.
mark is no larger than what's existing there now.
Oh,
Just to
okay.
point that out. And
It's helpful.
And I actually appreciate the fact you got rid of that awning over the drive-through because it was getting smashed, and it looked shabby and it was looking horrible every single time a truck comes by and knocks it over. So
You're talking about the rear.
I'm talking about the
On the
drive-through.
south, the partial
This
awning.
thing,
Yeah.
Right now, it's still shown at this point, but we'd like to take this off. We can take this off at this side, just on essentially this side of the building,
Right.
so that the drive-through side wouldn't have an overhang. The front elevation would still have the overhang because there's an offset
It's fine.
in terms of the
okay, somebody
mansard.
needs to mark those plans to show that with a pen. Are you the architect?
Wait, so are we making that, are they making that change?
Yeah,
To remove-
there's a problem where the trucks
hit.
hit it.
It's horrible.
I know.
So I had heard that
It's
there was
gotten
an
banged
issue. So if you're going to make a
And
change.
this eve is at the same height as the previous eve?
This correct,
Yes,
yes.
the underneath
It's all
one,
the
yes.
same, but
Yeah.
it's
So it-
also, it turns out it's too low, that thing gets hit.
Will there be any additional lighting towards specifically the
this.
drive-in side that will
Big
give
things.
customers, I guess, a little more? Is there going to be any proposed additional lighting to this project at all?
No.
Nothing on site, nothing on building?
Nothing relative,
I will say this, for the planning board site plan review, we submitted an extensive photometric plan that was approved. So
in
terms of the
addition
site
to
lighting
the
itself.
landscape plan and all the site improvements.
So wait,
That was a bear to get that done and get it
Yeah.
based
But
on
if there's
the
a-
actual photometrics that occur there. So it was not easy to get done.
So are we approving the building? Were you approving the building with the landscaping plan? Because if there's a
Well,
landscaping
In
plan.
quotes, landscaping, it's a lot of driving around back there, isn't it?
There's some landscaping, I mean,
They've
There's some
always, they've
stuff,
always
I
been
know.
tasteful.
Right, right, but I'm just saying,
I've been there once.
Is there landscaping in the front? There used to be on the side. Where is the
There is,
landscape?
my understanding was also landscaping was part of the site plan approval that was done by the planning board.
right, again, you're mixing up, conflating compliance with
appropriateness.
this appropriateness. So if there's a landscaping plan that has been submitted, then it should be part of this application.
It is, that is in the file, isn't it, the landscape plan?
It should be, if it was part of the
I mean,
detailed
as far as the
submission
building
items.
goes, I'm okay with the building, but if there's going to be landscaping or
But when you say
tree
landscape, we're
removal.
not talking trees. There's a small,
Yeah.
I don't think anything was over
McDonald's,
5
I
foot.
think, in terms of landscaping, has always gone above and beyond,
Yeah.
Are there
of the
any
landscaping.
removals of trees? I know we're talking about a parking lot, I'm just trying to.
No, it's essentially the area in the back where you have a small little bit of parking. That's going to be removed and the side-by-side drive-through is being put in there. So it's not really going to affect any landscaping on-site at all. So everything that you see in the front off of North Street Road will remain intact.
Yeah, they need to get the color of the mulch under control over there.
The mulch color? You like the
Dark, Hampton's
mulch?
dark.
dark
Yeah,
mulch?
it'll go perfectly with your building.
With the double? is it they
I
call
don't
it?
know what it is, but there's sort of a reddish thing that gets
Double-
going.
I think it's the
really
double
pretty
shredded
ugly.
mulch, they call it. Black? Double shredded black mulch?
Dark dark brown. So what's going on here?
There is a landscape.
There's a landscape.
Okay, and is there any concerns, Rob?
It's,
I'll
you know,
defer to you.
Basically, behind, as you
Bushes.
come around through the drive-through,
Uh-huh.
the existing trees and shrubs are to remain in the back. And out at the island near the sign in front, it looks like existing trees and shrubs are to remain. There's some modification of parking angles and curbs to accommodate ADA spaces in front, and otherwise planted from there on out to the street. Our view of it is it looks pretty reasonable and attractive.
Okay, good.
Existing lawn to remain.
And the existing trees in the rear are to remain as well. An existing lawn on the sides to remain.
Any other comments from board
Nope.
members? Any comments from the public? What? We're making noise? What are we doing wrong? My thing's on your microphone.
Oh, here's the comment.
Could I see the other plan that you have underneath this?
Sure.
I thought originally we were talking about in this particular area over here, where, oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong side. Over here, there was supposed to be a crosswalk marked off in here, and it was supposed to be a fence put up. That was to protect people from walking out here and people. That was part of this discussion about a month or two ago.
Yes, and we
At
did
the-
that. This
At
is
where? At
not.
this meeting?
No.
No,
At the
at the
site plan
ZBA.
approval at the planning board, we came back, we were asked that by, George, is it?
Hmm?
I forget his name.
Charlie.
Charlie.
Yeah.
So Charlie asked that at the planning board meeting, we revised it, we resubmitted it, and that was the one that was approved by the planning board.
Well, I
So I remember
wasn't,
distinctly that
Okay,
you
it's
wanted
fine.
the gate across and the crosswalk.
This is just a landscape plan. This is not the
Okay,
full set
so,
of.
so in other words,
construction
all of
documents.
those other features are still going to be as part of this?
No, Charlie, you got to go back to the planning board file and compare what you're thinking of to that site plan.
They have,
This isn't the same site plan.
This is what?
This isn't the site plan.
This is a prior submitted site plan.
Okay.
so-
wait, they're going to show you the site.
I don't have it.
No, he doesn't have it.
But it was
But
definitely
that's
part
not
of
our
that approved site plan.
purview.
No.
Well, we're talking about it.
Color of it is.
What?
The color of that is.
No, we did encompass that. That became part of the
All right,
final plan.
I think we're good. Are we good to go here?
Sure. I'll make it, yeah.
Sorry, procedurally, do you have a meeting next month? I was told that you may not.
We do at the end of the month.
We
Okay.
usually have two. We've canceled the one on Veterans Day.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
Pardon my interruption.
That's all
But
right.
I don't think we need another meeting, probably.
No, we
Do
don't.
we?
It's not in the historic
We're gonna
district, so
approve
it's
this.
not a written decision. So I'll make a motion that we approve the plans, the revised plans, the plans submitted by McDonald's USA LLC as revised for 12 North Sea Road.
Second. Oop. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
It's like maybe your first vote?
First vote.
First one, does she get some McNuggets? She says that?
Free fries.
Extra salt.
Sorry it was a long haul, but I think it's so much better than it was. Thank you for changing.
Yeah, good luck.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Really.
Have a great evening.
No more changes, please.
Oh, could we have the samples of the hardy board
Yeah.
and the shingles?
Yes.
Please.
Do you mind if we keep those for our file?
No problem.
Next, Che Wijasinji. Oh, please help me say the name.
It's close. We're just singing. We're just singing.
Wijasinghe. Okay. 150 Harvest Lane, constructs second-story addition and exterior alterations to dwelling. How are we doing here? In your name? Are you?
David Sherwood, I'm the architect.
Yes, thank you. Oh, this is this. What?
Yes, and they've been before us before.
Oh, it's small plan.
Small sets.
But since he's been before us before.
Plans she's submitting, are they changed, anything?
No, these are actually just small sets of
Small
what you
sets,
have
But this is a
in
change.
there, yeah. So I was here last month for various additions and alterations to the existing house here at 150 Harvest. And I think the board was generally pleased with most of it. The one thing that really seemed to jump out was this side of the house where we were proposing to convert a one-story guest wing addition to a garage, which at that time had the garage doors facing the street because we didn't have ample turn space. And then we were going to be re-adding the bedroom back upstairs onto the second floor. So taking into account all the board's comments and our conversation, I met with the clients again and we decided to create a detached garage structure in the backyard. And put an arbor onto the side of that, so then it sort of acts as a pool house backdrop, for the pool itself.
And there's an existing garage that's
And
going to be
actu-
demolished, right?
Well, we've gone back and forth on that, and it actually has, at the moment anyway, turned out to be cheaper to pick that up and to move it.
That's okay.
So that's the plan, is we're going to pick it up and we're going to move it. And then you'll see on the garage elevations, we're proposing to put a little dormer up in the roof there, just so that it looks like something when you're pulling in, and it would also give them a little bit of off-season storage space because they actually do keep their cars in the garage.
And you, for the record, could you just describe about how much that structure is going to be moved? Where it would be relative to what it is now?
It would move about 22 feet to the north and
Back from the road.
back from the road, and about 25 feet to the east, which is to the eastern property line. So it would be sort of in line with the garage, meeting the side yard setbacks as required in pyramid.
And are there any other changes to the fenestration in the house other than for that area where the garage is going to be?
No, so that actually goes back to looking much like it does today with the bedroom windows. Currently, there's a little mudroom door right there that we're going to wall over, and inside, we're going to make that into a laundry room. So there's a window going where there's currently a door.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you. I think we talked about that at length, that especially since there's so much going on in terms of habitable space in the rear yard, that there was some room to navigate, put a detached garage. So I think you did a great job. But thank you, the setback even further. So.
And actually, you might like some of that shade with that trellis.
Yeah, no,
It can
absolutely.
get pretty hot back by the pool. So I think you did a good job, and you were very responsive to our concerns.
Any public comments? Questions? Nope. Good
Okay.
stuff. I'll make a motion that we approve the application for Che Wijasenji.
Fortunately, we don't have to
At
say it
150 Harvest Lane.
I second the motion.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Next, CLT SH Properties LLC, 97 Prospect Street. Construct two-story single-family dwelling with attached garage. Is there anyone here? Oh, you're here.
The new
Good.
plans?
Your name?
Daniel Gomes. I'm from the firm Thomas D. Riley in Smithtown, New York. Christina Toscano is not here. She was here last month with me. Basically, we had let me go to the front elevation. At last month's hearing, we had a front garage that was attached to the dwelling. So we went back and forth. Unfortunately, we really couldn't find a good alternative to find a good entrance into the garage from the side yard, so we ultimately decided on a detached car garage in the rear of the property.
Zach, you want to see this?
We tried to keep the original concept as close to our original application as possible, maintaining the charm of a, kind of a nice little cottage. We're still keeping all the elements, the Anderson 400 series windows, the 8-inch round fiberglass columns, the CertainTeed aged oak asphalt shingles. We've also reduced the house quite a bit from 2,625 square feet down to 2,116 square feet, and then the rest over with a 305 square foot garage. The garage will also host the exterior shower on its side on page G1, and it will also create a nice little area to house the pool filter, and we'll enclose it with some shrubbery as well. We think this layout kind of worked a little bit better as well, reduced the overall frontage of the house.
That's good on that street.
Yeah. We have I think it's a large line of spruce trees along this side, so you really won't see the garage. And it'll also mimic the house across the street on 96 Prospect that has a very similar garage that we did about 4 years ago in the same cedar shake style.
I think you did a good job. It's much improved, and it's a cute little house.
Can I just ask for the record, is there a color for the garage door? I know you say it won't be seen, but
Right now, she's leaning towards a simple white, unless she decides to choose a natural stain like they did right across the street with the X brace. It looks really nice, but she hasn't really selected a specific garage door as of yet. But it will be a carriage style. She really likes the carriage style look. I feel like it's very fitting with the exterior of the home as well.
But is there
I would
any?
like a definitive white, a color for the record, so
Yeah,
that
so we have to say either,
if it comes back, it's red. So for the record, you're saying
She
it's
told me white to say
So you
white
represent
today.
white?
So
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Does it say
she
that
wants-
on these plans? They're tiny print.
it doesn't specify. He's an architect, right?
Yeah, so you can
No, I
write
work
on
for
the
the engineer.
plans.
Oh, you work for the engineer.
So I guess
That's
we
all
can
right,
have a written
engineers can
decision.
fix the plans, I think, can't they?
There's no written decision? It's just a
we can-
response?
White-
Can't an engineer do the color of the garage?
Is there-
Is it an engineer or?
Yes, I think it is.
I mean, unfortunately, you know?
Well, there's no law on this. I mean, if
All right.
he's
Could you
acting
write
as
on
an
your-
agent for the
On the
owner.
big plans, could you please write where the garage door is, that it will be the white?
Yeah, just put,
would you write on this sample or the mini sets?
I have to sign two big sets.
Two
so-
large sets.
So whatever, those are what were filed, so whatever they are, you need to fix
Let's
them.
get
Give them the
the
sets.
large sets that were submitted, because they're
These are
standard.
Oh,
just a
here,
copy of
these
what's
are the
for
ones.
tonight.
All right, besides that, is there anyone from the public who has anything to say about these plans?
Just write white.
No. Anyone else on the board have anything to say?
No, it's good work.
The file stays open if they want.
Thank you.
Reopen.
So what do we, so
So I'll make a motion that we approve the plans for CLT SH Properties at 97 Prospect Street as annotated with white doors in the garage.
wait, I second the motion.
Aye.
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 Fantastic.
Thank you, both.
Next,
You can just
Leanne
take
and
those off the
Stephen
side.
Marquand, 27...
Marquand.
Cord, 27 Cooper Street, amended prior ARB approval for revisions to the roof line. Please state your name.
Lisa Zaloga, I'm the architect for Stephen and Leanne.
Those affidavits for us?
They were. Would you like little baby sets too?
Great.
So this is a modification of an existing approval for there's an existing 1.5-story residence at 27 Cooper Street. And originally, when we came before you, and the drawings that you have in front of you show you the original approval on the lower and our new proposed above. So that's why you'll have 4 copies of the elevations with two each on them. So the original proposal for the front of the house, if you will, there's a gable that is parallel to the street currently, an existing gable, and it's non-conforming to the pyramid law. So in the original proposal, we were adding a reverse gable or a gable that faced the street that conformed to the pyramid law in order to get more space on the second floor. I have since gone back to the Zoning Board of Appeals and asked for permission to raise the ridge height of the existing gable, also hipping it on the sides, so that I wasn't actually really increasing my pyramid. I was just kind of relocating it. But what that did was it allowed me to get a little bit of a higher ridge on the existing and actually lower the ridge of that proposed addition, so that they kind of came together a little more, and it didn't look like the big new ridge was overpowering the lower existing ridge.
Lisa, just so we're all reading these correctly, to make sure I'm reading them correctly, what I'm calling the epaulets on that, the dark shades at the corner, that's the additional space,
That's the
right?
additional space,
Okay.
correct. That was
And the
for
little
zoning
white
board.
corners are where you took space away?
Correct.
From.
Correct. The
Thank you.
dotted area is where it.
But the roof is going to all be shingles across?
It's all going to be shingles across. Yes, it's not going to be different colors.
Just wanted to clarify that.
No problem. So basically, there's no change in footprint, there's no change in gross floor area, there's no change in any of that kind of stuff. It's really a manipulation of the kind of the existing ridge that's there, raising that up a little bit and lowering the addition of the big ridge that we were creating originally. Everything else kind of stayed the same.
Well, you're taking away the windows in the front.
Oh, yes, I went from 2 windows on the front there to 1.
And the little one up in the attic
Little
is
on the
gone.
Oh, no, okay, yes. Yes, because I brought that down.
I was going to say, is that because of the pitch, or?
Yeah, because I brought it down lower.
To me, this looks great, this looks fine. My only question is, I'm just a little curious as to why the angle of the hip can't match the angle of the gables in the front, or why you didn't do that.
I matched the pitch of the existing.
Existing roof?
Yes,
So the front to back pitch, the north-south
Correct.
pitch,
Yeah.
is the same as that
correct.
pitch of the
Correct.
hips?
Yes, I created a true hip there as opposed to a basket.
And on your north rear elevation, you are changing windows?
North rear elevation. The little round window on the top, they asked me to change the pool house that faces this, has a little round window in the gable, and they thought that it would be nice for the 2 round windows to look at each other.
Huh?
There's an existing pool house on the back of the property
Yeah.
that faces the rear here. And so
It has a little
it
round
has a little
window.
round window in the gable, and they thought it would be nice for the little round window to for them to talk to each other.
To me, the hip changes the massing of the original building.
Changes it.
The
What I tried to do was kind of make it look more homogeneous so that it didn't look like the addition was so much bigger than the existing roof that was there.
I have to say, I find it to be bulky, I guess, feeling. I like the first one, what we approved before. I'm not in favor of this.
Okay.
It seems small, but somehow it doesn't to me. I don't mind the back windows.
I think to some extent, maybe visually with, you may have done yourself a disservice, Lisa,
With the black.
with the black there, because.
Right, that was from the zoning board of appeals so that they could understand
Right,
where
because
the
I
change
think
was.
if you were to shade those in to match the roof line, and then if you were to compare the scaling of the approved south-facing additions versus these, the dormers, or maybe it's the way it looks visually, but it looks less top-heavy. At least the dormers or the gables look less top-heavy and less massive than.
Yeah, they're shorter and shallower.
Right, right. It's definitely it's a less massive addition than what was originally,
Yeah.
approved.
Jeff, the bottom, sorry to interrupt, but just the bottom of those gable forms has raised up, looks like by about a foot or so, and the top has come down about 6 inches. So that is what makes those sort of nested gables look a lot smaller.
Right.
So your first floor increased.
That was the reason that we went back. We went to a 9-foot first floor throughout. Originally, we were keeping an 8-foot high first floor in the existing part of the house and stepping down to a 9-foot high in the addition in the back. And now the point of raising that up, raising up the existing ridge 16 inches was to get 9 foot throughout. So that's the reason for the change in the roof, if you will.
I agree with that. The shading kind of from a visual standpoint.
The shading throws you off?
It throws you off. It looks more like a extended hip, which now makes it a little bulky.
I think it's a more homogeneous design by the fact that it's now nestled into the existing roof line.
It probably is. It just doesn't show it on a one-dimensional black and white rendering.
Yeah. So,
that was to give you an understanding of what the change was, but I can see where it would throw you off.
Right. So the second floor additions are smaller scale, and I think on that street it'll present better than the original design.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak about this application? Board members, do you have anything more to say?
No, said it all.
Anyone?
No objections.
So, since I don't approve of it, I'm not making a motion to approve it, so someone else will have to step forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the application of, who's the application from? The application
Marquard.
The application of the Marquards.
At 27 Cooper Street.
Yes, okay, there we go. 27.
I second that. Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Aye.
It carries. Good luck, Lisa.
Thank you.
Next, David and Dinah Nass, 20 Bellows Court. Construct front porch, exterior alterations to dwelling and pergola. Is this already built, some of this?
It's an existing house.
No,
No.
that's another thing.
No,
Okay, wrong one.
This is not built.
Okay.
Let me just check for affidavits, unless
Here,
you
this-
have,
I've already handed those in.
do you have them, or?
Fred Through, Tim Wilson, representing the Nashes at 20 Bellows Court in Southampton. We are proposing alterations and additions to the existing house, and a general makeover of the house.
Do you have small sets of plans?
I do have some.
Would be helpful.
You should have the large ones, right?
Yes, but
Okay.
it makes a big mess up here.
I hear you.
We can't get out from under.
No, you should see my office.
If we have to, we'll open them, but it
Okay.
causes trouble.
Essentially, that's the existing house right now.
Right.
We're bringing it a little bit more current in its appeal to the street. So we will be removing the turret front, squaring that up with another gable. I'm going to go to the front elevation, which is essentially that. So there'll be a small porch added in the front. We will be removing the balcony over the garage and the couple columns and the extended overhang that exists there now. We are working in a couple gables. We're changing up some materials, bringing some metal roof into it. Cedar shake will be the primary shingle on the exterior walls. The roof will also be cedar. Current house is 3,102 square feet, gross floor area. We are actually reducing it by 2 square feet in the reduction of the turret, the octagonal turret on the front of the house. We're adding some box bay window areas to bring additional features to the house. And we are putting a pergola in the rear yard, redoing the pool, adding a outdoor shower. The exterior finishes will be gray as far as the siding is concerned. The wood roof will be allowed to weather naturally to a silver tone. Trim, window trim, everything will be white as far as the...
And I'm sorry, just for the public record, the gray siding will be what material?
Cedar. Cedar Perfections, 5.5-inch
Stained.
exposure, gray stain, yes. Actually, we have, it's a house that's a couple houses away. I would assume the board's already approved that. It'll be similar in tone to that.
So just a couple of questions.
Sure.
Page.
On page
Point-
ARB .4.
Okay.
Below your windows, there's some type of feature. I don't know if it's panelization or if it's clapboard. What exactly is the horizontal?
Little horizontal lines.
The thin
Yes.
would just be the sill of the window, basically, the exterior of the window.
Though they're levels. So you see the horizontal
Like to the ground.
features? Is it?
We're talking about these.
I'm looking at. See, that's the problem. You're not displaying that in
The
your
small version
window.
is not going to, the colors are obviously darker.
Okay. So is that vertical clapboard or is it a cedar underneath the window? What is the feature?
It goes down
The
to,
siding is all,
it goes on the whole thing?
it is all, on the front elevation.
Yes.
Why do you see that on that one? I don't see that on here. That's a horizontal gray cedar.
Horizontal gray
Yes.
cedar.
Clapboard? Or,
Yes.
so it's shingles, but under the windows it's a clapboard?
Right, those two.
Under the box bays?
The box bay and that front bay, yes, correct.
Clapboard.
And then above the window, you have the seam roof, and then there's some other feature there.
Louver, to other windows?
Oh, these over here? That's just a cedar solar shade, if you would, screening to reduce. It's a 2-story element in there, and it's just a horizontal
Breezeway.
On the outside of the house?
solar.
On the outside.
Yes, on the outside of the window, yes, correct.
And that's going to be gray as well?
Gray as well, yeah.
Yeah, usually off of a deck. No, I've never really seen it off of a window before. So.
It's a 2-story element within the house. It's actually it's kind of an unusual shaped room on the inside, but we weren't working with that.
Too busy, huh?
Because the black and white is showing it.
Yeah, again, I don't know that the small version is the proper thing to be
We'll see
looking at. I think
see-
it's more of a muted element than an accented element.
I find this, I don't know, let me look at this for a minute before I say anything. This,
I think this is being disrupted. Consider that.
the
That would be
metal roofing plus
third
the
page.
louvered, whatever it is, plus the horizontal. Here we go.
There we go.
It's better on this, but
Yes.
Yeah,
I
again,
find,
there
so
will-
in the center section, or the, a middle section,
above the front door?
to the left, yes, above the front door, the seam, is that seam metal that's irregularly shaped?
It's just a porch going back to, extending back at a similar pitch to different degrees. So the element over the front door is actually protruding out further than the piece to the left of it, to the right of it, excuse me, I'm looking at.
Comes out
Yeah.
further.
It's the overhang.
Right, so the
All right.
porch roof is extending back further to connect to that portion, which is set back further than the
In
main part.
depth, yeah.
Do we need this?
Well, they're using it for shading for the dormer. Don't we? They have to have some pitch to demonstrate the dormer. And it's probably so shallow that.
No,
Yeah, it's a very small
standing
porch. It's
seam up
really
there.
just
I
enough
just
to
find
get out
that
of the
there's an
weather.
awful lot going on, and somehow,
It's what other details that I just have a question with, just trying to see the rhythm of the entire front. You have two gables with returns, and you have the gable above the garage with brackets underneath, so I'm assuming that's protruding out further.
That's
So there's
correct, right.
There's depth there.
That's correct, yes.
It just seems very awkward.
doesn't it? There's too many elements, too many changes is what I would say. There's got to be some consistency here. These
Similar
only
to the
two
original,
consistent
or-
I mean,
elements.
what it's saying is that this is the volume of the house.
Right, I've
The
been,
garage sets back a little
right.
bit.
I'm not, I don't, that's the least, I find that the body of the house has an awful lot going on. This.
Would a color rendering help?
I would like to see some depth, some
3D
dimension.
Shadow?
It will be helpful.
Yeah,
And the
I mean,
brick-
we could put something
The
together.
brick that you're using for the chimney, this exterior? The brick, the type of brick?
It's an existing chimney, it's
So
a
it's not
Danish
changing.
blend, yeah, it's no change.
It would also, especially on the front elevation, which is the most visible and the one that I think people find busy, it'd be helpful to have an elevation of the existing.
Just showing the shadows on it?
Side by side, just to show side by side, to be able
The
to,
intent is more muted. It's a change of texture as opposed to what you're, at this moment, you seem to be assuming that is this big contrast. It's really not. It's supposed to be a muted transition, more a change of texture.
the
than-
ridge lines stay the same. Like, we like to be able to compare proposed versus existing ridge lines and dimensions and all that, which we can't do without a dimensioned elevation of the existing building. So that's what I'm wondering, is can we get a dimensioned elevation of the front of the building?
Sure, I have actually a set of
Existing,
construction
this is an
plans.
improvement of the existing building.
I don't even want to see the existing
I don't
building.
need to see the existing building.
That's
I
the
need to
existing
see,
I've seen
building.
it, yes.
It's-
I need to,
I've seen the pictures. I want to
Okay.
see the dimensions to be able to compare the roof lines, please. Thank you.
If you look at the existing, every roof pitch is different. It's got elliptical, it's got a turret, it's,
Part of this, sir, is that I think showing those side by side will actually help your argument.
see,
Because there are.
well, I don't know how to show it any other way. Should I,
Two
Side by side
solar
elevations.
elements.
I'm looking for an elevation of the existing, usually see a comparison. When renovations
so you
come
want
before us,
a two-dimensional,
we usually see existing versus proposed, side by side in the same scale. That's,
that we can generate for
if
you.
you can, that would be helpful.
Essentially what the prior applicant had done.
Not a problem at all.
Exactly.
And
I'll
the
put that
door, I mean, because you have, I think this, if I'm picturing this correctly, it'll be a combination of traditional and
Yeah, I think everybody's calling it transitional.
Transitional, yes. That's
The go word.
good word. And if the elements are shown and displayed as being such, especially because we're using black frame windows and gray shingles, I think it's going to be blended well. I'm just seeing a lot of things such as the shed roof on the third floor, the louvered solar element that you spoke of that's shown both on the main floor as well as on the second level. I think if we had a color rendering, it would really demonstrate some of the rhythm of it all, and it would be easier for us to see the depth.
So pretty much have an existing front elevation
If you
and
would.
a color rendering of the proposed.
I'm less bothered by some of the elements, but although I do find it a little confusing right now to visualize, I'm inclined to say, it looks like you're improving this house.
Oh, yeah.
With materials and the overall look and feel, it's just a little hard for us to see right now.
We'll put something together to.
Okay, so you're asking us to adjourn to our next meeting, which is the 25th of November?
If the board feels they need that, yes.
Well, we need to, yes, because
Then I'm
we're not
asking you to do
prepared to
that.
vote, because we need to see more specifically what's involved.
But I think favorably inclined in many ways.
That will be fine.
Okay.
Motion to approve the applicant's request to adjourn to our next meeting?
So moved.
Second? Aye.
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 Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you. Next, Lisa Bass, 20 Pelletreau Street, enclosed existing covered front porch.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Robert Fischetti. I'm the attorney for the applicant, Lisa Bass. As you know, this is for the enclosure of the front porch.
It's already enclosed, is that correct?
Yes, correct. So the front porch takes up about 38 square feet. There were no changes to the base or to the roof line. It was simply walls added to the sides, floor added to the base and slab that was already there, and the front door, obviously.
Want to flip it around?
Oh, sorry. You have in your packet, this is before construction, and then you have in your packet post-construction as well.
You don't have the
I have a photograph on my
proposed
phone.
or
I have to
existing?
have-
There's
there.
11 in your packet. Photos of the current condition.
I'm sorry, you're here to make a presentation to us, so next time, if you're before us, if you could bring a copy to present to us, that would be helpful.
Yes, apologies. When I submitted the copies, I assumed that you would each get.
Well,
I've seen it. We just are building the public record on the video,
And then
so
we have
that
to give it
members of the
back
public
to
can see it, and so that's why it's important to bring.
So you're saying the current enclosed, there's a picture of that in the file?
Yes, 100%, yes. I apologize, I apparently didn't grab my copy.
Because it doesn't really show well on the plans.
It's certainly in the file.
There it is.
Let's see, if it's in the file, then we can put it on the
we'll give it
table.
to you.
Yeah, apologies.
That's right.
Problem is that my arms aren't long.
Okay, so you have existing, or, sorry, pre-construction and then existing. As I said, the change was limited to the footprint. There was no change in the setback or anything like that. Now, here are copies for your file of the existing, or sorry, pre-construction, sorry, I apologize.
Now, also,
so-
just for clarity, and maybe I don't want to usurp or interject, but language is important, and pre-construction, construction, I think you should also include the word approved versus what you're asking for.
Well, yes,
now.
that's why we're here, yes.
But it's not what you were saying.
Well,
So
we're-
there was a
we're here
plan,
to approve what
there was a
constructed.
plan that was approved, and now you're asking for something that was other than the plan that was approved,
Well,
and something, Robert, please, let me finish, something that you built without the board's approval. So we just, so we're all clear?
I
Okay.
didn't build anything. But yes.
But you're representing the
Okay,
agency.
really,
yes,
sir, you know what? We're trying to get through this. This is not a good situation. It's already built, so please,
I'm trying to
please be respectful
explain.
of the board. I would appreciate it.
I appreciate that, too. So since this was already built, as a history of it, yes, this was before the board. But before this was before the board, there was a building permit issued, and ma'am, I'd like to get through my presentation,
Okay,
and then
sure.
you can say anything that you want. But in March and April of 2018, my clients applied for and obtained a building permit for a renovation, the scope of which I'll come back to in a moment. In approximately May, the work of 2018, the work on the interior renovations commenced. At that time, the applicant planned to expand the scope of the renovation to the exterior, and we were before this board in July of 2018. We received approvals from this board for a full front addition of not just the enclosed porch, but both sides on each side of it, for a rear dormer and for removal of 2 windows that were removed because of termite damage. But for the 2 windows, none of that work was done, none of it was commenced. Which brings me back to the original permit. The original permit, which I just handed out, was an application that was predated our trip to this board. And it was eventually, my client understood it to include a front porch. As you'll see, I highlighted where it said enclosed front porch and rear porch. My client, relying on this and the building permit number on it, the signature of the building inspector on the back, felt that this was a safe fallback position in doing a renovation. And she made that decision in a difficult time, where she was not totally schooled in the ins and outs of permitting. And she made the decision on her own at the time when the designer, the contractor, who was also her husband, Joel Bass, had become very ill. Joel became very ill in October 2018. The work in response to that on the exterior, just on the porch, happened in November of 2018. By February 2nd, Joel Bass had passed. My client made these decisions, the decision which she thought was, and in her unschooled, she's not fully immersed in permitting and how it works and everything else. She looks at this, she sees enclosed front porch, she knows she has this permit. With contractors paid, with money tight now that her husband is gone, or sick and then would be gone, she decided to, what she thought, fall back on her original permit and only enclose the front porch, which was described on the original permit application. She didn't realize that that had been narrowed upon submission to only interior renovation. It was a mistake. It was an honest mistake, made in good faith, made at a very difficult time when she was losing her husband, taking him to chemotherapy, trying to consolidate the work and get it done, trying to hold down her own job and be a mother. And this is how she got to this point. She didn't have so much cause to second guess, because shortly after the work happened in November. In December, she had a final inspection, and she passed the final inspection. That's the final inspection card. So that was further reason why she
Who signed off on it? Who signed off on it?
Like both Chris and Tim.
Well, also,
This was not, well, if I could just
Okay,
finish.
sure.
This was not an attempt to get away with something. This was made in good faith. This was
Go ahead.
a good faith decision made under terribly difficult circumstances. And ultimately, we're here about the design. We're here about the design of the front porch. I've tried to
Design was
explain to you
final.
her decision-making so you understand where she was coming from, that she didn't do this flagrantly.
How they do.
She didn't do it to try to get away with anything. She did it when she, frankly, had bigger fish to fry. She had more things going on than this. Again, these changes are limited to just the scope of the front porch. I've submitted earlier today a letter of support from the neighbor directly across the street. Also submitted earlier today was a letter from Carol Reed, who is lives in the neighborhood. I've also have here 10 other homes very close by that also have enclosed front porches, some old, some new, some approved by this board, some pre-existing. This is a fairly routine feature of particularly of a smaller home where you step right into the living room and there is no front entryway to hang a coat and to put your shoes and to keep the draft out. That's all this was. Again, it was done in response to difficult circumstances very quickly, but also in good faith based on what she thought was the scope of her original permit. So I would ask that you make your decision based on the design and based on what's there. I think it's in keeping with the
Could I just make a couple of points? Are you finished, Robert?
Yes.
Okay. So, Robert, by your words, would want us to believe that the applicant was an innocent. Yet I'm going back to my notes, and I see that you represented the applicant on June 11th, 2018. You represented the applicant again on subsequent meetings on July 23rd. So she wasn't an innocent because she was getting professional advice. And you know that you can say that she doesn't know the routine, but you know the routine. Robert, now I gave you a chance, now let me finish. So all of that being said, I'm willing to forget all that for the moment. But to look at this simply on a design basis. And on a design basis, if you, representing your client, or if she had come here and asked for that, I would not have approved it because it changes the look of what is a cute house. And there was a lot of effort. You were here multiple times representing your client, and there was a lot of discussion about those dormers and how the property looked on the street, that it was a quaint street, and that front porch was an element that we assumed was being kept and was an important part, Robert, please, was an important part of our whole view. So the fact that, and I would have questioned it then, now having actually seen it, I know for a fact it is a mistake and it is inappropriate. Now, you may say, again, Robert, let me finish on that. You may say the house across the street has an enclosed porch. So be it. That's not this house. All the houses to the east do not have enclosed porches. You may show me samples of other houses. It's not this house. If you had come to us in June with that, we might have said, dormer's okay, front porch enclosed, not. We approved it as it was, therefore, design only. I'm not going to hold you to the questioning your client's intentions, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm sorry for their loss. However, on strictly what this is in the purview of this board, from my standpoint, I would not approve of that originally. I don't approve of it now. The fact that it's built is not of consequence to me, nor should be of consequence to the board. If, in fact, there were errors within the building department, by omission or commission, that's something you can take up later on with whatever court you choose to go to. But as far as this board is concerned, as far as the design is concerned, assuming that you are coming here de novo, and that is, I'm blind to the fact that it's already built, I would not approve of enclosing that front porch.
If I could just comment on that. Your approval in July of 2018 approved a full front addition that
No.
did not have...
No.
It did eventually, he's right.
It did not
Full
have a front
extension.
porch. It had both sides blown out. This front porch was not part of the ultimate design that was approved in July of 2018. And believe me, I would have loved if my client came
It's
to
on
me
the
during this
plans.
time and said, hey, we changed course. I was not in regular contact with her, so I would have certainly advised her of that.
So-
I was not there throughout the construction.
With respect to this application you've given us, this enclosure of the porch, the application was made sort of in two stages, which got combined. Originally, the original plans omitted the extension of the full extension of the front of the
They hadn't
house.
planned that, yes, correct.
And so at that point, they wanted to think about enclosing the porch. We were told, when I first saw the plans, don't focus on that because they're going to amend it to have a full extension in the front. So I never saw plans that enclose the front
No, that
porch.
was-
And I think a fair reading of the full record, not just this one piece of paper, would be to say that the enclosure of the front porch had been abandoned by your client by the time we approved it. So I don't accept that it was part of what we approved. I don't think she should have relied on it, is what I'm saying, based on the approval and the
understand.
process. And the last thing I'll say is, if someone had come with an enclosure that wanted to go out to about where the columns are, to preserve the proportions, no. The enclosure's gone out well past those. It's gone out probably 4 to 6 inches beyond where the columns were. it changes the proportions of the house.
Or even the
I'm
walls.
with Jeff, and I would not have approved it, and I don't think it's appropriate now. And I believe also there's been an alteration to the approved windows on the garage. Do you have anything to say about that, or?
I don't know anything about windows.
Well,
Okay.
To be clear on one point, I apologize. To be clear on one point, my client and nor I was not saying that this front porch enclosure was part of your original approval. This building permit was approved before we ever came to you at all. And yes, I know and you know that no exterior renovations are approved or would be part of a building permit without coming here first. What I'm telling you is my client did not know that. Had I been standing next to her while she was between chemotherapy sessions and telling the contractor, go ahead and do this.
She came to us and said she superseded whatever
Yes,
she
but
said in
that
the
was
original
before.
application with a new floor plan that showed that whole extension coming out. That's what we reviewed.
yes.
And she knew she wasn't going to build that. At that point, even a layperson should have said, I may have to go back, at least talk to the building department before I make this change. That's what,
And that's
for
a-
the record,
and
for
that's
those
a-
watching at home, that's what a layperson should do.
And that's
They
a
have no
fair
experience
assumption
in
of
it.
what a layperson would do under normal circumstances.
It's-
But when a layperson is driving her husband back and forth to chemotherapy,
I get it.
and he passes away 2 months later, I don't
I'm
think you
sorry.
can hold her to the rationale of a reasonable person under normal circumstances. I respect your opinion, but I think that
Okay.
most applications, I understand, the applicant's personal circumstances don't come into effect. I think with this decision at this time, this critical time in her life, I think that should be considered.
And I'm very sympathetic to that. It doesn't rise, unfortunately, to me, to the level of changing my view of our responsibilities to protect the look and feel of neighborhoods in the village. So as much as I feel badly about that, I can't let that override a decision that, as Jeff has said, I wouldn't have made previously had it come to us in a more normal course.
So I believe,
I don't find it appropriate.
board members, I
It's a
also,
moot point because it's built, and then what's the recourse?
it's not
Because
that hard.
I'm just asking for purposes of.
He's not a builder.
I'm having a conversation between the board, not necessarily the applicant. What is the recourse? How do we now, the house, it's built, it's done, it's finished. Do we have a reaction to them going back to the original plan? Is there a?
Yeah, that's the idea.
The only thing we have at this point is say you won't get issued a C of O, but it looks like the building department already did that.
No.
No.
The
They
building
passed the final
inspector
inspection.
brought this to our attention.
Okay, so
And
right
we
now,
have
our
since
approval
found
would
some
not,
other irregularities in the windows in the extension to the east.
so the lack of our approval hinders your applicant, your client from receiving her C of O. And it doesn't look like you'll have the vote on what's being presented today. So does the applicant have a Plan B, considering that this may not be approved?
Well, aside from the front several inches, is there something else specifically about?
No, we're not rebuilding it. We want you to
No,
put
I'm
it
asking you what you
back.
don't like. I'm not asking you to rebuild it. I'm
So,
asking you what you don't like.
I'll give some color. What you had there before was a dormer roof over an open porch, and with proportions that not only had light coming through, but narrower columns, a narrower form than what's built there. What's happened now is sort of almost every square inch underneath that roof has been filled in with details that, in total, it looks temporary to me.
Horrible, but again, I'm going back to recourse. I mean, is there a Plan B for the for your client? Because it doesn't look like this board is going to approve it. And I just express one thing. It started first with the process. So there's already a feeling based on the process. Whether it was reasonable or non-reasonable, the process, that starts in the negative view of the application to begin with.
I understand. I mean, believe
To
me.
add to that, now it's built, we don't have a recourse, and you're asking us, well, I'm sorry, it was an accident, approve it anyway. And that's after the fact. And if we would do that, that sets a precedent for anyone else who decides, you know something, it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. So
And
let's
that's-
go ahead and do it.
And that's fair, and I'm not prepared to cite examples, but I believe this board has approved improvements after the fact in the past, so it's not
And
totally.
then there were reasonable improvements that were accepted at that time.
I understand.
And that's a separate
It's not-
application from what's before us now.
So
Let's
could
stick
I,
with this.
Speaking of the design, so this house has no shutters. That house, as built, I think, does have shutters, right?
That has shutters.
That has shutters.
It has shutters.
Little green shutters.
They're pale.
But there is an
Oh,
issue
okay.
with windows.
Never mind.
We'll have to deal with the building department about that, because they missed that.
Is there a picture of the existing as-built now?
No, I'm just going off of that, and it's just that the color's so more dramatic. These are,
I'll look at the plan.
these are a light, I don't know, blue, gray, teal, something like that.
Yeah, those were there.
Can I ask a question? How deep is the current shed there that's been built versus the staircase that was there and versus the roof that was there? It looks to me like that dormer has also actually been built out to the full depth of the steps that were there before. Is that correct?
As was explained to me, it was all the same and there was no build-out, but hold on.
Okay. So what happened to the steps? Where are the steps? Because there's a 3-step grade change from the path up into the house, but I don't see any steps in front of that shed there.
I'll tell you what I'd like to do. One of us or whoever wants to volunteer to go out with the building inspector and the plans and to walk the property. I mean, we're talking about several changes.
Sounds like you're volunteering.
I'm volunteering, I guess. Thank you.
I'm not aware of other changes, otherwise I'd be happy to address them. but
I'm not either, Robert.
There's nothing I'm leaving out, I'm just not aware of, you know.
Same here, and there's sufficient confusion that I think it behooves us all to know of what we're talking.
Well, I've been there a couple of times. Walking the property, it's a small property, so
Yeah,
you
no,
don't have
I'm
to
not
walk.
looking for exercise.
So where are we with this? Because I'd like to,
You've got to get
Move
some
ahead.
facts. This is just sort of
Yeah.
degenerating into an argument.
I
You've got to
agree.
get some
I don't wanna
facts.
be-
I think, Jeff, it's a very wise decision. Let him go out there with the building inspector and a notepad and compare plans in the
Okay.
file that were approved
So who's
versus
doing
what is
that?
there and get some
Since
specifics.
I volunteered, I'm happy to take the lead on that, and anybody who wants to walk the property with me is
Okay.
welcome. I'll treat to coffee,
okay, great.
but
So,
that's not enough.
I'm fasting, I can't.
Would you, I
So
believe
the
we
board is going
need
to
to
adjourn.
adjourn.
The board is going to adjourn this for all purposes to engage in fact-finding
Okay.
and
Motion to
report
adjourn
back.
the application of Lisa Bass for all purposes in order to, for
Obtain
fact
facts.
finding and discussion with the building department.
Okay.
Second.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye, and I'll get in touch with Chris, and then I'll circulate the outcome of that
Our next-
meeting, and then dates, and Robert, you're welcome to
Is that
walk
a
it.
meeting that I can attend, or?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, sure.
These are public meeting. Oh, you
No, no,
mean?
no.
On the
I didn't know.
walk, on the walk around?
Walk through? Sure.
Yeah, I'm fine.
it can.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
So I'll
yeah.
coordinate through the building department, or?
Let me get in touch with Chris,
Okay.
and then we
Do you
we
have a
have your
card on you for
contact.
him?
I don't on me,
Okay.
but I'll reach out.
Okay, thank you.
They
All right,
probably
thank you
have
very
his
much.
contact details.
Probably.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks,
See you
Robert.
next time.
Okay, thanks.
Take care.
Next, John and Laura Gallo, 300 Great Plains Road, construct pool house.
Good evening. Pam Pospisil, Pospisil and Bryan Architects.
Wait a second. I need to just verify the posting mailing.
You want them
Do
facing
you have the
you?
affidavits opposed, do you have?
They're
them?
in there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, this way, that's good.
Can I ask just one question? And there are two houses on Great Plains Road that we have on this agenda, and they're within spitting distance of each other. One is in the historic district, or at least in the hearings here, and the other is not.
Mine is not.
It
And-
gets sawtoothed in that part
Wow.
of the
Okay.
You know, that speaks to a
We might wanna
larger
look at-
issue.
Straight
Yes.
lines.
Yep.
Yikes.
Public hearings, discussions, and the extension of the historic district.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the outside
No, it
bar.
has nothing to do with you.
They
I
digress.
love that.
Okay, they digress, yes, okay.
Please point out the outside bar when you're going through these plans.
All right, actually, you
Pretty
can
good.
just don't look at that, just look at that. This kind of tells the whole story. Basically, there's a small pool house cabana there now, actually. Let me give you these. It might be helpful for you to see up front. These are just pictures of the existing that we're proposing.
Can you put one
to
down here
demolish.
too for the record, please?
Yeah. Can I get one? It's really nothing more than a shed. That's what it looks like from the outside. Inside, it's just really used for storage. There is a bathroom in it.
Oh, you're talking storage in here, that photo.
And they need more. So, and then these, the last two pictures are just pictures of the existing house, just for reference for material, use of materials. So we're proposing to tear down this small shed, which is not in good shape. It's actually going to fall down on its own at some point in the near future, and replace it with a new cabana, which is not, it looks in the drawings like it's considerably larger, but one needs to take into account that really half of it is just covered porch. It's located in the southeast corner of the property. The property is fully rung by hedges, large vegetation. Honestly, can't be seen by a neighbor from the street, even though we have two frontages. It's going to be all same materials as the main house, red cedar shingles on roof, on sidewalls, trim around the windows, white. Patio is there. It will be extended only by 90 square feet. It's brick with bluestone edging to it. Our proposed chimney will be the same brick as is on the patio. I don't know what else I can tell you.
What's the square footage of the actual building?
The enclosed space is 466 square feet.
Okay.
The covered porch is about 300, a little over 300 square feet.
Is this visible from the road at all?
Not at all.
That's what I thought. Because I was going to ask you about the fence, but I'm not going to ask you about the fence.
I took the fence out of the rendering because it would mask it too much, but you'll see it noted on the site plan and/or on the survey that you have. The majority of the fencing is in the hedge and the along the property line.
I have no objection to this.
No, it's nice.
You gonna get rid of the oak paneling inside?
Yeah.
Oh, don't you love that photograph?
It's pine.
It's pine, it's like 1950, right?
Naughty pine.
Naughty pine, look at that. Yeah. Anyone from the public have anything to say about this 300 Great Plains Road pool house? Gallo? No? Is there any more reason to, any discussion? Okay, motion
I think
to
it looks great.
approve the pool house of John and Laura Gallo, 300 Great Plains Road.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a very clean presentation.
Thank you.
Much
Yeah, thank you for the
appreciated.
rendering.
Sure.
Very nice.
Next,
Any stamped copies down there, please?
do we have any
For the
stamped
file.
copies? Here's a stamped copy of it. I don't think you really need. Next, 205 Corrigan Street LLC constructs two-story single-family dwelling with attached garage.
Hi, I'm Matthew Pantafel. I'm the owner and builder. I have some renderings. I had given you guys plans, and I also have a landscape plan there.
We have posting and mailing.
I need to check.
Go ahead, while he's,
Well, we actually,
I have the return receipt of all the mailings.
we need the affidavits. Do you have notarized affidavits of posting and mailing?
Yeah, that I sent to all the people around.
No.
There's an affidavit,
There's
there's
a
a
piece of
form from
paper.
the building department that needs to be signed and notarized.
It
That
says,
says
"I
you've made the mailing
did
and
this."
you've made the posting.
I don't know if I have that form, but I have copies of all
receipts.
those receipts.
We don't have jurisdiction.
We don't have
unless we
jurisdiction,
the forms.
unfortunately, under law.
Sir, you're going to have to come back. So you need, excuse me, affidavits of posting and mailing. They're available in the building department. You could probably, I don't know if you can load them off.
Did
the
they not give
internet.
them to you when you went to make your application?
So
You
we-
normally get you
Packet.
have the packet, which shows the address of all individuals, because you said you mailed everything out.
Yeah, she emailed it to me.
She emailed it to you. In the attachment of that email is probably the affidavits, just swearing or
Probably.
attesting that you've done so.
Can we go through this in?
No, we have no jurisdiction, and we
We
really
actually
can't.
can't, because
And I would just add, as long as we have no jurisdiction, that I don't think the materials were mentioned in your plans that you submitted, so you might want to put that on.
I'll make it big. It does say on the written drawings.
You're going into substantive dialogue about the application.
No, I'm okay with it. So you want me to make it more,
I'm just saying I didn't notice it.
all right,
How's that? Okay,
no problem.
next.
Sorry, Matthew.
Sorry, next time. Public hearings historic. Hello, Thomas, the first, number one is adjourned, Thomas and Meredith Joyce is adjourned to 11/25/2019. Next, Lifton Green LLC,
Also adjourned.
isn't that adjourned also, Mr. Bennett, or not?
I'm no longer representing.
Oh, excuse me.
It's no longer Lifton Green.
Okay, never mind.
there was there was a letter, let me just see if I
Oh,
can
to
find it.
adjourn,
Asking to, October 24th, asking to be adjourned to a December date, not specified.
First meeting in December.
good question.
It said, just for the record, recently the contractor sold the
Ninth.
property to Lifton Green LLC
The
was
ninth?
The
terminated.
9th of
The
December.
9th of December. Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn what is in this agenda called Lifton Green, but let's call it 270 Ox Pasture Road, for the record, until December 9th,
So moved.
2019.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Pico.
Yeah, but is that how it's going to be listed? Let's do it with the address.
Avoid confusion.
Monsieur Picot.
Friend of the board, but Pico is the owner.
Picot. Okay, next. Emanon South Corporation, 276 North Main Street, construct two-story, single-family dwelling with detached garage.
Hello. Evening.
State your name, Michael White.
Michael White.
Good.
Before Michael speaks, I just want to say something. At the last meeting, I lost my patience with Michael. I called him despite your admonitions to be courteous and kind. I let the hour get the better of me. I called Michael the next day, apologized. He was a gentleman, accepted my apology, and was a good sport to say that he's passionate about his projects. And so I just wanted to share that with you folks.
You can get testy in
And
here.
I apologize too. I'm out of order.
Well, you put in a completely new kind of plan.
Yes, because the other one I'm going to move to Bishop's, and then this one,
Just let's stick here, baby.
Is this
Right here, right here.
two for one?
North
Is that a
Main,
warning?
North Main.
this one.
It's like a warning to me.
Bishop's isn't historic, that's right. All right, we have small plans?
Very small plans,
Oh, minuscule.
Here,
but you can keep them.
that's one.
I think there's only limited numbers.
Okay, here you
So we'll
go.
look
Yeah,
together.
we'll look
That's
together.
fine. Go ahead, Michael.
So what I did was I put a house that was a little more historic. I put the double hung windows, white shingles, cut out the giant metal roof and just left it on the front. Made it more colonial looking, and as I'm sure you've seen the lot. I put hedges in the front like 2 years ago. I screened both sides of the property. I screened the back. It's fully screened. And that's really it.
I think you did a nice job. On the site plan, we couldn't figure out where the garage is. I know
Oh.
you have a garage.
Yeah, it's detached.
I know, but where is it? Where's the site plan? Oh, it's on the front.
It's in the back here. And it's also going to look like a
So
pool
is
house.
it labeled on this? That's what I'm asking you.
I believe so. I can't see.
Proposed trellis area,
This is
Yeah.
it.
the blank?
It's a blank, but
There's a
That's the
door, there's an
blank.
inward door off the
Right.
path.
but it's not
Okay,
labeled.
is this it?
Yes, that's
It
it.
would make sense since it's at the end of the driveway,
Right.
right?
And we're going to make it look like a pool house from the side.
I got it. Okay, so you're going to need to put,
Where the garage is.
yeah, just
The
tell
garage
us.
is going to look like a pool house, or the garage is going to be a pool house?
No, it's going to be, we're just going to put the sliders on the side that are facing the pool. And we're not going to make it into
It's not gonna be a pool
No,
house.
No.
Anyone missing a set? We have other small sets.
Should we see the sliders on the side of this?
So, these doors are facing that.
So on the last page, Michael,
Yes.
sliders on the side where?
We're going to, the only thing that's going to change is right
Can you
here.
put it flat on the table so,
Oh.
and facing
The only-
us, so Charlie can pick it up?
The only thing that's changing is right here. We're going to make this into a 6-foot slider. So it doesn't look as much as, it doesn't look really like a garage.
That's the proposed rear elevation
Yes.
Yeah.
of the proposed garage.
So, but we would need an amended plan for that, but we might
Okay.
be able to ask you, if everything else goes well, we could perhaps extend the courtesy of letting you bring in that last page amended,
Okay.
since we know you so well. How's that for friendly? huh?
That sounds great.
Thank you for the 180.
No
Yeah.
problem. No, you're right. It's not a lost work anyway. I could put it somewhere else.
Does anyone, do you have any comments?
No.
Comments?
I have a couple questions, quick questions. I think it's, by the way, very responsive, and the materials look nice. For the record, I'm not a fan of standing seam metal roofs. I've made that clear, so that concerns me a little bit. What I'm really interested in is, I just have a question on the north and south elevations. Let me go to the right page here. Let's go to let's go to A6.1 on the right side elevation, which is the south elevation. I'm just wondering why the windows, first and second floor on the corners, are so close to the corner. It just has an odd rhythm to me. Is there a reason why they need to be, it looks like roughly 6-8 inches off of the corner?
I think because they're centered on the fireplace. I think that's why.
But
they
it
ended-
doesn't look centered on the fireplace.
No, it's the interior.
There's an interior fireplace, not in that room. I don't, maybe I'm not being clear here.
On the right side of this building?
Talking about these
Proposed
windows
right
here and
side.
also these
Oh.
here.
Yeah, it's because there's a fireplace there. Right?
Let's see.
So you're saying that there are two sets, but the fireplace goes up?
Yeah, the fireplace will be centered like that.
We're looking at the
Okay.
A6.1.
I'm looking at
We're not in,
A2.0.
I know, we don't work inside. You.
Well,
No,
but-
I know.
But I asked the why, and he's trying to tell
Okay.
me why. So, but that window still isn't centered between the fireplace. If I'm looking at the floor plan on A2.0, the window's not centered between the fireplace and the corner of the room. And it just feels to me like if that window were, and the windows on the west side of that south facade were similarly offset from the corner, that it would just be more pleasing and appropriate. Just feels pinched, and
Well, it is interior, it is centered, the windows in the living room. It is centered there. I'm sure
you're
that.
looking at what, 1.0 now? If they're on one, which, you're still at 2.0? Does anyone else see what I'm seeing? Or-
Yeah.
Okay.
It's close to the corner.
Yeah, I'm on 2.0.
By the fireplace?
Mm-hmm.
You have the similar situation on one window on the left or north elevation.
But they are centered because the other window's very tight to the wall on the other side too, if you look interior.
On which one are we looking at? 1.1 or 2.0?
I mean, that's the only reason he would do that.
I'm sorry, I'm just still not seeing the logic for it. I don't want to be hard-headed about it, but it doesn't, I don't see a reason why the two windows around the fireplace in the den on the first floor plan.
Well, you have to, not only the fireplace, but you have to have room for the hearth you have to have room for the stone surround, which is 12 inches, and then you have to build a mantle. You would never fit the mantle in if you had the windows closer.
On the first floor, I'm seeing a hearth drawn that just comes out from the masonry, but doesn't project on either side.
Right, but you would have to build a fireplace mantle around it. So you have at least 2 feet, 2.5 feet between the stone and I think that's why.
9 inches to combustible
Well,
is code.
well, most of
Like
them,
you've
they
got
make
about a
12, most of them, they make 12 inches, and the top has to be 12.
Okay, well, whatever's driving it on the inside, I like the design, so I don't want to focus on this too much. I just find the placement of those windows awkward if no one else is concerned by
I
it.
agree with you. I mean, it doesn't, but I think that's just an interior design issue with it.
Okay.
I agree. It's not optimum, but the other part is nobody's going to see it either, because you're not going to see it from the street,
Why?
because we're screening it. I mean, we have a lot of screening there.
We'll see it.
You think so?
Eventually,
You think somebody's going to see in the backyard?
after Hurricane Michael comes through, or Hurricane Rob comes through.
We've experienced
see
that
it.
before.
But I don't want to pick on it too much. I just didn't understand if it's really driven by an interior programming issue that can't be handled elsewhere. I'll live with it, but I'd maybe ask it to ask the architect if that could be.
No, I would
Look at?
like it moved. I mean, it doesn't look right, but I can
Same
see why
issue
he
here.
did it.
Okay.
Well, if you'd like it moved, then
I
we,
thought you were talking about these.
you'd have
just
to
not
come
gonna-
back.
It's just not going to fit the fireplace.
Yeah, so do you want to come back? I know you don't want to come back, so what's the deal?
Okay.
You're talking the windows to the rear or the front?
The rear.
I'm talking about it on the proposed right side elevation on
Because it's
A6.1 at the bottom of
replicating it in the
page.
front, too, it's still pinched.
What's that?
Replicating it in the front 2 windows, first and second floor, where it's pinched, I think the same distance in spacing to the corner.
Which one are you looking at on the
I'm
front?
at A6.1. Bottom rendering, which is the right side elevation.
Yep,
Those 2 windows at the rear,
That's
as
what
well
I'm
as the 2
saying.
in the
That's what I'm
front,
saying.
both of them,
that's what I'm saying.
both pinched the.
That's exactly what I'm saying. All 4 of those windows, to me, I would prefer seeing them spaced in another 6 to 8 inches. I think it would be a better rhythm to the architecture.
Well, the rear ones you won't see because of the fireplace chase.
Correct? Not as much.
The front, I mean, I don't think anybody would ever notice that in a million years. I mean,
Well, the front would be more visible, and there you do have more flexibility. I'm just wondering from an interior usage standpoint, which it would seem that you'd have more light coming in, or potentially more light
So if you
being
had
balanced.
3 spaced, unless there's something in the way, is there a wall? And then the pinched one by the fireplace maybe, but maybe you could fix the first one by the front.
well, I think if you move the front over, it's not going to be equal with the one in the other side in the rear.
Yeah, but that's less, so you could have 3 that are equally spaced, a chimney, and then the
Put a double
pinched.
window in there.
I mean, I could do that. I honestly,
I'm just,
I
you know,
honestly
I
don't
don't,
think anybody would ever see that.
I've raised the question, and I would say it doesn't to me sound like there's necessarily sort of huge, people may
On
understand
these
my
po-
point, but not agree with it so much.
No,
So I don't
I-
want to get caught on this.
all right.
I'm more bothered by the front windows than the ones on either side of the
Huh?
chimney. On either side of the chimney, I think Michael's point is a good one. One to the rear of the house, 2, they're going to be masked to some extent by the chimney. The one on the front, though, seems like it's sort of hanging out there right on the edge of the house. And it would seem, as an inhabitant, I would probably want more light coming into that
The
front
main part.
room,
corner.
either by a wider window
Yeah, I'm
or
looking
a
at your floor, I
a
looked at
double
your floor
window.
plan
And it looks
on the
different.
first floor, and that particular window, there's really nothing obstructing a shift a little further away from the corner,
In the front?
in the front. The
It
front.
just wouldn't match the back. I think that's what he was trying to
So that's what he's
accomplish.
trying to make it bookend, the 2
Symmetrical.
windows.
But I think the design kind of suffers from over symmetry.
Right,
Yeah,
so let's
exactly.
do 3
I think
and,
what would relieve that south wall
Yep.
would be to move those 2 front corner windows about a
closest to the
foot
other 2.
Yeah,
Does that
That's
run
what I
into a
was saying.
code issue?
away that.
Does that run into a code issue, putting the first floor window above the well for downstairs?
No,
You can move the well.
no, the well has a screen on top.
Yeah. Okay.
I just had a couple of quick design thoughts.
Sure.
And it's an entirely new house, but it's going into the historic district, where there used to be one four-square in the middle, and now there are potentially three in a row. Okay, so that's a,
Story of our lives.
that's a lot of new house going into the historic district. And they're not small,
What do you, I don't understand, what do you mean a lot of house?
a lot of house.
Conditioned space in
So
total.
the three houses.
On those 3 lots?
Correct.
But wait, whoa. What, most of the historic district in that area is
Michael,
half
could
an
I-
acre.
Could I just
These are
finish?
acres.
Could I just finish?
Sure.
Thank you. So, my kind of response to this is that there are a couple aspects of this design, aside from this overly symmetrical kind of imperative, which carries across the front also. From my eye, it needs a little relief. And I'm also a little worried about that very industrial window above the front door that has that shed dormer over it. To me, that's architecturally not a very pleasing or residential-looking element. And I only brought up the fact that there would not be 3 large houses in place of one, because to me, that there's a little something with the ridge line across the middle being at that height. There's just a kind of a massiveness to this. Could that ridge line be dropped a foot between your 2 street-facing gables? Did it not be quite that massive? Because, I mean, the overall effect, obviously, there will be yet a 3rd house to be proposed at
You're
some
talking about the
point.
connecting gable? Sorry. The
Yeah.
ridge line
So
between the
could that
gables?
be lower? There's just something kind of large about this house, and it's one of 3 going into the middle of the historic district.
Well-
And I think the totality of what is being proposed on those 3 lots should really be considered in terms of the impact on the historic district. So if there's a way of reducing the scale, the impact of this design, I think that would be kind of desirable, and I'm not suggesting that you consider making it smaller in terms of its footprint. It's just that there are a few elements that exaggerate how sort of large it is. And I think that ridge line across the middle is one of those elements, unless that's essential. If you're housing all sorts of mechanicals in your attic and that's where they need to go, and blah, 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 all that, I don't know that that's true. I mean, is it true?
Well, I'll tell you, originally,
Yeah.
when we drew this, the architect wasn't aware that the flat roof law changed. This is an example of why they shouldn't have changed that law. Because people were cutting their roofs down, and they were using a flat spot for the solar. Now where am I going to put the solar? In the front of the house? I mean, or am I going to put it in the backyard? I mean, they made a huge mistake doing that aesthetically.
Where's the solar?
That's a good question.
It's
where
not
it's
on
going to
here.
go. It's going to go up on a wall side. It's going to go in the backyard on the lawn somewhere. And that's what the village has created. They've created a giant problem. There's so many houses in Southampton town that have the solar on the flat spot, and you would never even know it. And if I cut this down a foot or 2, and I had the flat spot, I could put all my solar here, and you'd never see it. And I actually showed somebody that was in the village. I gave them 3 pictures of the houses with the gables, and I said, which one has the flat spot? They said none of them. I said, no, all of them do, because you can't tell. And it's a shame now, because now you're going to have solar all over the place.
So
And-
that's the issue that I raised by saying that the ridge line.
well, if you want me to lower the ridge line, for what purpose? I mean, if
It
it was...
lowers the mass, it lowers the sort of the massiveness.
But then he's either changing the angle of the roof or going to flat roof, which has
Or
been
shortening the
restricted.
depth of that central area, I guess. I don't know.
flat roof?
Yeah.
I'm not the architect. I'm
A
a
portion?
No, no.
Does
Can't
it
you
seem
have a
like...
portion of the roof, a percentage?
You could only, it's not enough to put solar.
Yeah, I thought with the new solar, some people do.
No, you need I think I need 1,000 square feet for solar. And it wouldn't be enough. I mean, I don't think this is too high, considering this is an acre lot. You know, and that's why they changed the law. These are acre lots. These aren't small lots. I was entitled to 7 lots there
Okay,
if I
but
put...
Okay, but we're talking about 2 entirely separate things. When you build new in a historic district,
Right.
and this is a very unusual situation in these districts in which there will in fact be 3
Yeah.
consecutive lots that have been created. And so the total effect of 3 new buildings all in a row in a historic district makes an impact on, it's a change, it's inevitable. Of course, these are new houses, so I'm just saying that the totality of that impact should be considered in terms of each of these as they're approved and get built. So one's approved and is built, and it's not small. This is now one on one side, there will be one on the other, and I think the totality of that is a lot of new house, which looks very different in scale, and, I mean, this is essentially with the one unfortunate house, which is in a sorry state of condition, which is 18th century. The rest of the houses in this district are pretty much mid to late 19th century. They're asymmetrical, they have all sorts of quirky and interesting architectural details, and then plunk in the middle of it are going to be 3 large symmetrical houses all in a row. And some accommodation to building in a historic district, I think, is, to be suggested so that they don't all look like big symmetrical piles in the middle of the district.
I agree with the industrial window, though.
Oh.
And I think if we lowered that roof.
Yeah.
And we put 2 other smaller, like 2x2 windows,
Yeah.
that would be a better.
To Zach's point also, I'm just noticing, because you phrased it well, that the north elevation, the left side elevation, because it's not symmetrical, is actually the most pleasing.
Different windows, different
Yep.
Right.
shed.
And you could break up the fenestration on the south side very easily, because none of those windows absolutely needs to be exactly where they don't all have to be symmetrical. on
Well,
that side.
the ones on this fireplace.
Forget about, okay, so the back ones, that's that, but the other 4 in the front half of the house
All right, I could change
be
that.
all, like, not lining up.
I could
Yeah,
do that.
that'd
That's
be
easy.
easy.
Would
Yeah.
you be opposed if I put 4 windows there and put a shed dormer on the roof with,
On the
Well, I
right?
think you'd have to
In the
just
middle.
do it and
In the middle of
In
the
the
front?
middle?
bring
Yeah.
it back and see what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It would
So
be.
you're taking out the big bay, adding 2,
right,
and reducing the shed.
and putting a shed over it and
Over.
getting rid of that shed? Putting a shed on the roof?
Getting rid of the shed
Getting rid of the partial shed and doing a shed all the way across the
and then
front
putting a
that
big shed up?
accommodated.
Oh, putting a shed here?
Across.
And the big
then
industrial
we-
window, putting 4 windows instead of 2?
A lot of windows. Wait a
So
minute.
that portion of the house is recessed from the 2 gables, side gables, right?
Right.
So you're going to extend out the shed across the entire mid-band over those 4 windows,
Yeah.
from gable to gable?
I think
well-
that makes it look too big.
How about I bring
Yeah.
that, and I bring it without that, and then we could look at it
Yeah.
next time, and then you could see which one you like.
Because it doesn't need to come out any further. It's just you're raising up the gable to allow it 4 slightly taller windows maybe than the 2 little ones across the front. I think that would be interesting.
And what about the windows up front on the side, the north and south, the north?
Maybe just check
Oh,
with
the
the
south
architects
facing.
about those windows that are close to the corners
One,
there.
particularly the 2 that are close to the front porch on the side.
Maybe I could
On the
change
south
the
side.
sizes a little of some of them, and,
Vary it a little
Yeah.
bit. You know what, yeah, just varying it to,
yeah,
as Zach said, to break up
Because
some of the
that's what's
symmetry.
good about this part,
okay.
you know?
Yep.
They're right.
All right, so I'll do those.
All right, so you're coming back?
Yes.
This
Are
is,
you
by the
asking-
way, did I say thank you? for-
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So
Really
you're asking
responsive.
to adjourn until our next meeting, Michael White?
Yes.
Motion to approve Michael White's.
You know, I had, one thing I found out today, I didn't know that all new houses in the village have to have this new sewage system. And the problem is this house is so far from groundwater, it's like 27 feet. You're taking
All
all,
homes.
It's in certain districts.
In
It's
certain district,
It's
yeah.
in 2 and 3, and you're in 2, I think, because you're in the watershed that goes directly down to
Into Lake
Agawam.
Agawam.
I think that's why.
Well-
You're not in the critical area, but you're upstream from that in the zone 2.
I thought it said any new house has to have it.
I don't
No?
think so yet.
Oh, all right.
But it
I may-
will
I'm
be,
not
don't
sure.
worry.
Because I'm doing the house on
People are
Bishop,
gonna be
which
very
is
upset.
nowhere near any water. It's a
But-
little clump.
But the water, if you look at the topography, I didn't believe this before, it all goes straight down, either into Taylor's Creek or Lake Agawam.
No, but on Bishop's, there's one little clump. Unfortunately, where I am, it's an acre and a half, and everything else has nothing. And I spoke to the health department today, and they said that they're taking a lot of these houses and they're burning up all this grant money. And someday it's going to run out, and you're not going to have money for houses on the water where it's supposed to be going.
Yep.
So the village is taking houses that shouldn't be
using, because, I mean, it's great for me, I'm getting a free cesspool system there. They're giving us all the grant money, but
We're getting the grant money?
it's $30,000 they're
over.
giving away
Yeah.
for nothing.
Everyone should do it.
Right.
Is all I can say. We can talk offline.
Motion to approve applicant's request for an adjournment on Emanon South Corporation until our next meeting.
I'm so moved.
Second, aye?
Aye.
I'm stuck on the grant, I'm sorry.
Okay,
You know,
sorry.
That could be well used and
That's,
more affordable
no,
means.
that's how they encourage people
Everyone
to
has
do
to do
it.
it.
Next, Red Maples LLC, 261 Great Plains Road. Construct two-story, single-family dwelling and driveway gates. Oh,
Good
I don't
evening.
remember seeing the driveway gates.
Architect for Marion Ty and David Hidalgo, owners of property 261 Great Plains Road. I have here affidavit of mailing and posting. There we go. And I'm going to submit some drawings to the board, which I'm going to walk you through. The first set are 5 copies of a landscape plan.
I think we saw the landscape plan once before, didn't we?
Color renderings, but fine.
Didn't we?
And I have 5 sets here, which with a minor modification, which I'll walk you through what it is. The architecture is same, but just the
Mr. Sammy, is this
details.
your
Yes.
agenda that got handed up with the
Yes.
affidavits?
Thank you.
Those.
A little background on this property. The site is a flag lot off of Great Plains Road, 261 Great Plains Road. It's a vacant lot. It used to be the site of Red Maples Estate that included larger property, the adjoining properties to its north, which actually stood on ox pasture. The present owner is also the owner of the properties to the north of it, the 2 properties to the north, which house accessory structure and a main structure already built. And this site is going to function as a garden, not a formal garden, but a garden for the main house on Ox Pasture Road. What we are proposing tonight is a primary structure on this lot because they want to keep the lot as a single and separate lot.
Turn it around. Plans,
Yes,
both of them.
there we go. And what's going to be proposed is, and what I'm here for, is a primary structure, which is a 2-story structure, 2.5-story structure, if you may, 35-foot height, at 680 square feet GFA, 340 per floor. So for a change, you have something small to deal with.
So it's a folly.
So
Yes,
it's a folly. Exactly.
it's a
garden
folly.
folly.
True folly.
It's a true garden folly, so that when they do venture off to the garden from the back of the yard, that they have somewhere to go to
Sorry.
and hang out
What
and
a
read
problem.
and sit
Yeah.
and so forth. There is a reflective pool also being proposed over there, about 1.5 foot depth. And driveway gates that access it from the Great Plains Road. The structure is classical.
You can't even do it. You
What?
can't even do it.
Classical Italianate folly.
Italianate folly.
What is it?
Two rooms basically. A small 15 by 15 foot ground floor room and a 15 by 15 foot second floor room. There is a small bathroom there. There's a kitchenette on the ground floor in the main house, so that it would conform to the requirements of a residence. But again, originally we had filed this as an accessory structure, but we had to go for too many variances, hence shifting to a primary structure, and ZBA did approve it as a primary structure. The variance was to granted a smaller footprint than what the minimum size of a structure is. The village requires 1,500 for ground floor and 900 for second floor as a minimum size of a house. And these are, as I said, 340 on ground and 340 on the second floor.
So that's the variance.
The finishes of the building match the existing structure on the ox pasture, which is stucco, masonry stucco, clay tile roofs, wood windows, painted wood windows. Some of the details, such as the balcony, is a metal balcony, metal balustrades. What else can I tell you about this?
So the which I'm assuming, the shingle that's being used is more of a...
Stucco. It's a stucco. It's a stucco. And just to give you an idea...
No, I meant the roof.
The roof.
The roof.
Clay tiles.
Clay tile.
Clay tiles.
Clay tile.
So it's that
And on the
pink
curved
house
portion, though, is
thing.
that a seamed metal roof?
On the curved portion is a flat seam metal, copper roof.
Painted red?
Not
Copper.
painted,
It's copper.
Also, the gutters are copper.
Yep.
And the small dormer facing east on the main axis of it also is flat seam copper roof. The rest of the roof, which is the primary, the tower 15 by 15, is a clay tile. Scalloped shape, again to match the existing house on ox pasture. The finishes, this would give you a better idea of the color compared to the renderings. It's a muted pinkish white stucco finish.
Is this replacing a driveway gate? So
And the proposed driveway gates are exact copy of, these are the ones for the primary house on ox pasture. We're replicating that on Great Plains Road for...
so there are no good driveway gates now? This is being
No
proposed.
driveway gates.
So I don't see that.
It's in the last page of your
It is.
package.
It's not in the small set, it's in the large
Oh,
set.
okay, fine.
Yes.
All right,
What will grow on the trellis, out of curiosity?
Some fancy thing.
Some sort of
It's fancy, it really is.
basically primarily to screen and hide or minimize the impact of the massing of the back of the tower, so that the tower would stand more
Of the
predominantly.
village's smallest residents.
Yeah.
Right, it's a cool idea.
It is cool.
Gotta minimize.
The tree house. Like on the...
Can you actually,
Hearing someone,
would
Romeo,
anyone
Romeo.
ever be able to see it from,
Right there,
no.
right.
So this is it, this is our view of it, because you'll never be
This
able to
is
see it from
you would not
either
see
road.
it from either side
Right,
or
okay.
either location.
Well, I think it's a novel approach. I think it's cool. I have no objections. Anyone from the public? Anyone left from the public have anything to say? No? Anybody here have any objections?
I think it's wonderful.
I think it's pretty,
Just to,
Yeah.
one comment, the package that I just submitted to the board eliminates the stone lintels on top of the windows. This is basically simplifying the folly so that it won't be as much of
so
a
these are
formal.
the,
What
can you mark up the real plans then?
Sure, I'll submit, I've submitted plans, but I'll mark it up.
Can you mark it up? I don't want to mess with it. No, he can do it, he's there all
Well,
the time.
the new submission has eliminated already those.
Oh, it has?
Yeah. it has.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yes.
Motion to approve the application.
Close for...
Oh, close to written decision, absolutely closed. Motion to close the application of Red Maples LLC for written decision.
So moved?
Second?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next, Stephanie Hessler, 328 South Main Street, window and door replacements, and construct roof over existing deck. I need to recuse myself from this project, so I'm going to go in the back room. Will you knock on the door when they're finished?
Need somebody to stand in your stead.
See if I can remember.
Yeah.
Posting and mailing?
Oh, yeah, it is. Yes, Boulder, the plans that you're submitting now match everything that's currently in file. Nothing's changed, nothing's been altered.
There's one change to an outrigger profile on the proposed roof.
Okay, you'll discuss that change.
Oh, wait a minute.
need one?
Yeah.
There you go.
Jack, you want one? Yeah, because you may want to refer to it. Do you need one,
Size one?
Bob? We got extra.
Hi, I'm Scott Satiels, my colleague William Rutledge. We're here from Ferguson and Schmalmian Architects, representing Stephanie and Stephen Hessler. We would like to make an application for some window replacements around a house built in 1892, known, I guess, in the village historically as Penryn Cottage.
Speak up a little bit, sir.
Sure. The house today is largely changed from its original state, but many of the original windows do remain. The house has been through a number of additions. It's located 3 properties north of Gin Lane on South Main Street. It's surrounded by tall vegetation and mature planting on the property.
Hold on, Zach, is there a blue sheet on this?
Oh, yeah.
This is the driveway entrance to 328. These are neighboring and adjacent properties. Once inside the property, being able to see the house, it's a mix of Queen Anne and shingle style, all shingle clad. There had been an original porch that was wraparound. Today it is a single centralized, smaller door porch. The house has had additions over the years, including the addition of a living room, this deck here, which is the area which we would like to propose a new roof in the form of a pergola, and then the additions of a pool house wing at a later date. We can see the character of the existing windows of the house is 9/1 is the typical that's on the building. And also note this is the original front door with side lights and transom that managed to survive with renovations. This is the house in the earliest photos that we have of the house, with the wraparound front porch, the front gable not yet filled in, and no additions yet to the side here. In a later building campaign, the owners hired Marie Coffin to do landscape work. In some of those photos of that landscape work, we have seen that there's the addition of outriggers around some of the porch, in addition to the slender Doric columns that sit over the shingle walls. So what we're proposing is a multi-year renovation to the house, the first year being the windows that are all highlighted in the plans and in the elevations that I'll go through, and the extension of a porch over the existing deck. Excuse me, porch roof of the existing deck.
Thank you for shadowing the shape, the alterations, and looking at the elevations right now. You
Yes.
shadow. Can you just go through some of the changes?
So again, looking at the front elevation, which faces west towards Main Street, the existing front porch, replacements of windows along the front facade, all in kind except the library. We actually are looking to change those to be more in keeping with the other windows on the building. The existing have a false bottom grid of 9 that's plated on the inside. So replacing the windows to be a 9/1 so that it looks like the remaining windows on the house.
Is that moving more to the traditional, the original
Yes.
architecture, or are you?
Yes. So it's actually restoring it back more towards the original. We are planning a fully custom window, so we'll be replicating the single pane glazing, all the stiles and rails, and the profiles using a company called Little Harbor out of Maine. And then this is the roof that we propose over the porch to the side. So this is the existing deck. We're proposing a porch that has the feeling of the pergola in the subsequent photograph that I showed earlier, and a new Chippendale railing to infill. On the south elevations, we see the additional windows that we would like to replace, taking away in the master bedroom in the living room, the existing French doors and creating a new design of a combined window and door unit facing out toward the porch, sort of with a more of a Queen Anne style on these large glass pane elements. On the east elevation, it's very similar details, replacing windows in kind, looking to enlarge the windows that are in the stair hall over the staircase, bringing them closer together. What we think is actually a slightly better proportion to them. And again, replacing the railing that's along the existing deck with more of a new, a slightly different Chippendale pattern as opposed to the existing. No changes on these partial elevations. No changes on these partial elevations. Going around to the north side of the house, there's a existing mudroom entrance that was built in the 1990s. We're looking to replace the mudroom entrance with a glass door, side lights, and transoms, more in keeping with the design of the rest of the house. And then along the closer portion of the north elevations, again, just replacement of the windows in the library, altering them from 9/9s to 9/1 double hung units. You can see here, again, vestiges of the original porch that had been infilled to make more space inside the house. And then also, I'm sorry?
Where you mentioned on that last elevation replacement of 9/9s. I see replacement of 1 9/2 with a 9/1. I see, over on the right side, on either side of the chimney.
Correct.
Okay. But you're not replacing the other 9/2s with 9/1s behind the balustrade?
Not yet. We'll likely come back next year or the year.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. Thank you for the questions. Also additional to the plans we submitted are 3D renderings that we made of the porch to help explain the porch roof in a little bit more detail. So starting at the front porch, around the windows that remain, the railing that remains, and then this being the porch element that we would like to add back to the side, bringing back the attenuated Doric column sitting on the shingle side walls with the Chippendale railing that has a swoop like the original second floor railing had, and outriggers that are slightly different in profile, as I mentioned, than what we submitted in our formal application.
How many additions and alterations do you believe over the time?
At least 4.
At least 4?
At least 4.
And the dates of those?
They don't have the dates. I know the last major wing was, I think, approximately 1995, but the outriggers are in photos dated from the 1920s, so within 30 years, the house was already beginning to go through substantial alterations. This whole section of the living room is all actually inside of what was the porch. So they eventually just kept...
The removal of that porch was...
It's a shame.
It was a shame.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Zach, have you taken a look at this in terms of its totality and had the additions
Not yet.
and alterations over time
There are a lot of
shifted?
windows going in. And with a, we call this a pile. All right, so with a pile like this that has gone through so many changes, it would be very, I think, interesting and important to try to get a better handle on what's left of the original house. And I think there's a reason here to try to preserve some of it, because it is a contributing resource. And I'm always concerned about houses that go through a sequence of improvements, over the decades, to the point where you really don't know what you've got anymore.
Question I was
So
gonna ask you.
perhaps a site visit would be in order to kind of, not to catalog this at a high level of a window schedule, of which there must be 92. You
It's
know,
been customary with this board,
But-
Zach in
yeah,
the
that would
past.
be
It also
helpful.
sounds like they may plan on doing some
That's
other
correct.
updates over time in addition to
So to
these.
get a
you
handle on what
yes.
you've got that's still left, I mean, just for forensic reasons, to intentionally preserve some of the original windows on the house somewhere, and to record that and to catalog that, because from a standpoint of understanding this house, to have systematically over 90 years, to have enlarged and removed and replaced and then remodeled, and then to design something new to look like the way it should have been to begin with, things are getting very confusing for me. So I think that'd be a great place to start if we could do that.
And similarly, enlarging, adding windows where there weren't windows before, you run the risk of obliterating original fabric as well, until
That'll be
there's a
part of the
survey.
process of evaluating the impact on this house. I mean, this board has, over the years, approved the replacement of original window sashes
Yes.
with certain equivalents, et cetera, et cetera. So that's part of the process, but every house is its own set of circumstances, and I think it would be good to understand this a little bit better before you.
We would normally, and the board will agree, we normally would ask Zach to do some type of report, and as well as suggestion or recommendation. His responsibility is to be our historic consultant, but to give recommendations of the board on direction and movement. It also puts things in context in terms of what's changed, what's shifted. And my number one question would have been, the number of changes, additions, removal of the front porches. Has so much of the house, of the original house, been so distorted that it's lost? I would hope the answer is no to that.
To do a walk around.
But to do a walk
facade, you know, there's probably going to be one of those facades that virtually changed. But then there may be a couple that are substantially as built with some obvious tweaks.
Jeff, you have any comments?
No, I agree. I think in total, they're trying to, the design looks like they're bringing back some of those original elements, but at this point, what's original and what has been compromised? So
Right.
Zach's visit makes all the sense in the world.
The original blurb in the National Register nomination talked about an H section. And my fear would be by trailing off additional porches, you'd be compromising the plan, the original intent.
And
But I defer to you.
Rob, anything further?
the only thing I would just add in, it's a bugaboo for me on a lot of different styles of houses. The trend to massive window forms and stairwells, to me, is a problem. It very rarely goes with the architecture that it's intended to go with, in my judgment. I find it inappropriate, and I'm finding this to be a window wall that just feels inappropriate. I'm not sure I'm crazy about, I'd be curious to know whether the tall windows that are there are original. So, but as a specific element, I'd love to see what you would decide on site and what else might be handled there, because that just looks like a lot of glass.
You're talking about the east elevation?
Talking about, yeah, 203, A2031,
Yeah.
the proposed east
Yeah.
elevation.
Yeah.
The loss of the space between the existing windows, the creation of a large, basically almost 2/2 grand-sized window.
And who knows if those two in the top existing were original anyway.
Right.
Pretty
And I
much
get
sure
that
it
that
probably
is.
was not.
They don't look
Sounds
right.
like, it looks like an
Yeah.
80s
And I
edition.
get that that's facing away from the road. I just, particularly with the
yes.
historic structure, I worry about that as a specific element. But I don't have anything else to add. I think the idea of a site visit is a good one.
Is there any public?
And I would also, just for the record, to the extent that you're trying to create some conformity where things have been bastardized or bring some things back, add back in some elements, I appreciate that. So I think it's, I'm encouraging of
So
what
what-
your client is doing.
Thank you very much. So what would the process be?
So you will be, Zach will give you information, you exchange information, we'll get in touch with one another, and we'll schedule a site visit. He will
Okay.
do his report, and the report will be prepared before the next meeting. Generally, we will have a copy of it to see it prior to, but he usually gets it into the file prior to the next meeting.
Yeah, on time for public
Yes.
input and, yeah.
in which case you can observe, you could read. If there's something you want to respond to or answer to, you can do so at the next meeting.
Okay. Would it be helpful to have a sample of the proposed window at the site visit? Okay. Just offering.
Not for me.
And just for the record,
Thank you.
other than the change of the fenestration and the addition of the porch, you're not proposing any, just for the record, not proposing any substantial change of materials to the siding, to the roof, colors, all the same?
Right.
Good team.
Thank you.
There's nothing further to the board. There's no public comment. So, you're asking the board to adjourn until the next meeting so you and Zach can have your meeting to prepare his report. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn this to our next meeting to provide time to meet with Zach so we can prepare a report in advance of that meeting.
So a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck, looks great. Thank you. We only need to keep two of these
Sure.
for our records. Do you want the extras back?
We can take them off your hands, just so you don't have to do the dirty work
Yeah,
with
because you're
them.
coming with alterations, right?
Well, in case they're helpful for people to look at in a meeting. or whatever.
Thank you so much.
So that's adjourned? Next, excuse me. Advisory cases. We have 270 Ox Pasture Road. What's this?
Again, I'm not representing them.
Stay out of it.
As a member, as a friend of the board, and as feeling somewhat, I still want the lawyer, I don't know that the lawyers for the owner are as conversant with the requirements for requesting an adjournment on both matters. I think they just assumed when they requested the adjournment on the public hearing, the advisory would go with it. At least that's what their discussions were with me.
And I know that's what their representation was at the last meeting. They thought the two went together. I think we would...
Adjourn for all purposes?
Simply adjourn for all
Yeah.
purposes.
Motion to adjourn for all purposes, the advisory. I don't know if there is, do we actually case for Lifton Green, 270 Ox Pasture Road? There is no adjournment.
Just adjourn it. What difference does
Forget it. Okay, I tried. Next, Thomas and Meredith Joyce, we do have an advisement for the ZBA.
Well, I prepared before our last meeting, I prepared a draft of a report that you should consider. I have made a few further comments to that report. It basically remains the same, and this is your, I think it's 11628C. It's your, have the opportunity to make suggestions and comments to the Board of Appeals. I've tried to identify those in this document, and you're welcome to add, change, delete, or otherwise review those.
I read the report earlier. I think it was thorough. I think it really gave a picture and depiction of the course of events for the application. I think it.
Yeah, I think that'll be helpful to the board.
Bo, the only other thing that I remember some discussion on was that I think the board had wanted maybe not to see any parking on the side of this house, so parking either behind the hedge that separates it from what will be the proposed additional property only, or behind this house, but not...
No parking...
Behind the house.
No closer than the rear, the north wall of the house.
Right.
Right, exactly.
You add that?
Is that objectionable?
Okay.
I do have one thing I would like to add, but
But
ask.
the effect is essentially not to see cars in front of the...
Not to see cars in front of the house or to the side of the
or the
house.
side.
Correct. So that the building
All right,
sits
so
prominent.
no closer than the north wall of the building, okay.
I do think there's one thing, I think it's implied, John Bennett for the applicant, I think it's implied in everything that you're saying, but you'll remember, this is a request for your review and comment on a variance, a use variance, to enable this now repurposed structure, where it used to be a commercial structure in a residential zone, to become an accessory residential structure.
Yes.
But it doesn't say that. It says, boards, and I think it's implied, that's what you're talking about, the board considers repurposing the building to residential use. I'm reading, if you could just put, I would respectfully, accessory
Why don't you
residential.
say residential or accessory residential?
No,
use? 'Cause
let's
at
make
this
it
point-
accessory,
Make it
because
accessory.
otherwise
Accessory
it'll be a
residential
house.
use.
Okay.
We don't want to go there again. We'll be doing this forever.
Well, no, it will be, the whole idea is it'll be a guest house.
Good.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
leave it like that.
Well, no, but.
I don't want other, just
I
let's
think
make
it's
it
important that you put that
specific.
in there.
Right.
That's all.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
The other question I just have on this, Bo, is, I know, because you had said you'll come back to us with
Yes, yes.
an application for the full
Identify that
site
in
later.
the
Yeah,
document.
Put that in there.
Do we want to say, with respect to, say, landscaping, you've got some specific here, that those are the principles, but subject to
Yes.
a landscape, submission of a landscape plan with the
Well,
final?
there's going to be an overlap here of jurisdictions, and the Board of Appeals could do landscaping, although they probably might defer to you anyway, but it's going to come back. You have the opportunity to review this again, but if they need it in front of them, that's why it's in this document.
I think the more we tell them, that's fine.
I would just say, to
Specific as
me,
possible.
this is at the moment not an absolute requirement. The principles I completely agree with, but I'd rather see a final landscape plan, either
Well,
that
you need
they've
to see the
approved.
building. You see,
We
you see
haven't,
the
it hasn't
building.
come before us.
Yeah,
You'll see
understand.
that. That'll be- that's, I think that's a jurisdictional requirement in the
116-28K.
historic district.
Exactly.
Anyway.
I just don't want to pin them down or
Well, I
us
didn't
down.
read anything where it said that there was, that we were, or implied or otherwise, that we were agreeing to or approving the design.
You're not.
So
There's no
we're saying
design
they
to
have to come
approve.
back
There's
before
no
us
design
to
to
But
review.
there were some
So I'm okay.
parameters about the use, where the building is on the land. That's a very specific part of this.
Yep.
So I'm down with you, just for the add accessory, I believe.
All right. So
Okay.
I'll do a final draft of this, and then
So I'd like to make a
Sign it.
motion that
Sign
we,
it.
right, that we approve it now, subject to the change Bo will make, and authorize Susan to sign the letter and the advisory opinion back to the ZBA.
exactly.
So move.
I mean, you're going to add
Second.
accessory to residential.
Yes,
right?
yes.
With-
Second.
I'm sorry, so move with the addition of adding accessory to the
Residential
the
use.
residential use.
I second Curtis's motion.
Aye.
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 Okay. I
Thank
have
you.
one more.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Now,
you.
you spent a long time here, Mr. Bennett,
That's okay. I was
reading.
reading
So I have one more, which is, it's not on the agenda, but
and listening.
today,
Wait, do we have a gentleman in the audience?
Oh.
Did we miss something?
Capital One, awning.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
We had a question.
yeah, step forward and state your name, sir.
Victor Kudenatov, New York Science and Awnings.
Okay.
I was
No, he wasn't here.
No, but he's been here for a while
Yeah,
now.
right.
Listening to all of
We
this.
had a-
Okay. We did have a question on this. Do we need to reopen formally or just
Yes.
discuss it?
Yes. Motion
I
to
don't think you ever, would you adjourn?
We adjourned it, yeah, so motion to reopen the application, the sign
Reopen it.
application for Capital One.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The only question we had is whether this sign, the We Do Home Mortgages, is that what it
No,
says?
no, no, on the left, on the wall.
Is that there now, though? Is that,
I don't know about this.
okay,
This is what I'm
it's the
gonna do.
awning, right?
Awning, the roll-up, retractable awning.
Yeah, the problem is that they have something that's not acceptable, and so we're leaving,
But we don't know that it's not approved, right?
well, were you here in the last 3
Not
years
approved
that it
that.
was approved? It's not approved.
This board has not approved that.
No, but Victor,
So we would have to hold
he's
this.
not asking that, but he's not asking for that.
No, but this is all part of the same, in order to deal with the situation at hand, we need to not accept what's there.
The issue, sir, I think is,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone has an objection to the awning. I haven't heard an objection to the awning, but we have a concern about a sign that is visible from the public right-of-way that doesn't appear to have been, doesn't appear to have been approved. And unless and until we know more about that, or that gets approved or removed if it's not approved.
Can you address that with your applicant, with your client?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell
Why
him.
don't you
Okay.
tell them that the board has some challenges with the sign that currently
For that
exists?
sign which you just.
Yes,
Yes.
and therefore.
And he asked
is-
me a question, that's
Does
not.
not feel like we're in a position to vote on the applications being proposed because there's other features
What's
on the
that say?
property that.
We make home loans.
We have to
Okay.
take care of this first and then.
No, we
We're saying that
can't.
we don't feel that we're in a position to vote on the application because there
But it won't be a
are
problem.
questionable signs that have not been approved.
Honestly, would he have to come back? We've already talked to him. If they get rid of the bad thing.
It's up to them. If they need to be here and they're not
Okay.
here, then you're going to have to adjourn it for another meeting.
All right,
So
motion to,
So-
it's better to
let me
have
just
them
say-
here and not be needed.
The three options are to have the client remove the sign, to have them provide
Rob,
some
don't go
evidence.
that far yet.
Let's not
go.
do this.
Wait until you
That's
talk to
their
the building
problem.
department and see what this is before you.
Motion to adjourn the application of Capital One Bank for an awning.
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
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 Sorry, it was a long wait, but there's a problem. That's how it works.
You understand what the
Yeah,
challenges,
yeah, I
right?
got
Uh,
you.
you know, if that
Not
had-
objectionable.
He asked me also if he can after, but I understood it's no possibility, he's not gonna move forward. If he can have light underneath of the awning, I know it's not,
Probably not, I don't know.
he just asking.
Okay, we don't
Lighting
know.
underneath the awning?
Yeah, because it's ATM.
Well, they have rules about lighting, but, for ATMs, but I don't know what they are. How about that?
I did couple location for them. in
They need to
Brooklyn.
propose it and cite, you know, the language, deal with
I
the
would go and
building
discuss with the
department.
You're talking about underneath the existing structural awning, not underneath the proposed
We're
new
not
awning.
doing that now, it's late.
No, I'm not. dealing
Okay,
with the
sorry.
lights. Okay.
Sorry for your time.
Okay, a final, I received a letter today from the building inspector
Not for you.
We're all set, picture, thanks.
Thank you.
regarding the courtyard on Job's Lane in a historic district. I'll just read part of it. Dear members of the board, in accordance with Chapter 65 of the Village Code, and in particular 65-10B, maintenance and repair required. As stated in that section, no owner or person with an interest in real property designated as a landmark or included within a historic district shall permit the property to fall into a state of disrepair so as to cause in the judgment of the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation a detrimental effect upon the character of the landmark or district. Now, this has been a problem. This place has been vandalized or something has happened. There's a sign, a makeshift sign. So I'm asking members of the board to inspect the situation and to come back on to our
November meeting.
November meeting to discuss the situation. This law, I believe, we've never had to deal with this situation, but we're dealing with it now.
May I ask, I know it's not an historic property, but
It's in a historic district.
But in the historic district, is it appropriate to ask Zach to do the same thing? And
No,
just give a
it's pretty obvious, Rob, what's going on there. They're not
Just asking
building
the-
anything, it's about disrepair.
Understand.
My role would really be to look at it if something of a historic nature
It's
was
not
being
even
compromised.
historic.
But it's not. It's all
Okay.
been rebuilt.
Is that good enough?
It's a very good idea.
Okay.
Yep.
So, that being said, motion to close the meeting of the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation for October 28th, 2019.
So
Do I have a
moved.
motion?
So moved.
Second, aye.
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 Good night.
What time is it?